G'day and welcome to Inforunners. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by Algared. How you doing, mate?
Fairly well. Just dealing with a sudden blast of sound that came through the speakers.
Oh, okay.
And of course, it didn't want to mute when I told it to. I'd had it muted, and when we went live, I decided, hey, I'm unmuting because we're now live.
So
joys of technology.
Yeah, we actually missed the Centurion stuff last week, so we'll probably go through that this week at some.
We did.
Today
We did. We were happily streaming away, and
totally missed it.
Usually our guys say, "Hey, it's out," and no one mentioned it. Or if they did, we missed it in the chat because we were.
People did ask us what we thought of it, but no one kind of
said,
yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, it's out. So yeah, we'll have a look at that. I think if you kind of looked at the video I kind of did with SA and Drazen, we weren't expecting like revolutionary things. I think most people would kind of say that it wasn't, revolutionary in that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, it really is in many ways just a variant. It's not. I don't see it. I don't see any of those vehicles as distinctly different. They are built on the Atlas frame. They're variants of the same thing. Yeah, I picked one up because it's. I don't know. I'm an idiot.
Well,
I haven't listened to Sandy's advice. That's for certain.
I do think in the actual current game it actually does work probably better than some of the other vehicles, and kind of what I mean by that is like it's being used quite a lot at Jump Town. I don't know if you've seen that, and it's a little better than the Ballista, where the Ballista kind of runs out of missiles and stuff. The Ballista is better, don't mind me, like at the bigger craft, but this thing's just got more sustained fire, so it's been used quite a lot.
And because it's lasers rather than ballistics, it tends not to run out. It does glow like a Christmas tree, apparently. But the fact that it's really good at taking up small craft or small fighters, and it's good for that close range. And so I do like the idea that the ballista is really long range and then really falls off at short range, whereas this is short range and falls off at long range. So there's a nice crossover of role there. So there should be a nice synergy between them, but they really are just variants of each other. It'd be almost nice if we've seen them as upgrades, or trailers that you'd put on.
Well, I think that's kind of what it's going to be. You've kind of got the oh, I just realized that's in the wrong place. I'll move that in a second. We've got the Spartan, which is the kind of trailer one, and then you've kind of got the gun platform one, which is more like what the Ballista started out as, and now the Centurion. I do find the naming conventions a little weird, because the Centurion and Spartan go together, but the Ballista's completely left of field, yet the Centurion and Ballista are kind of more similar, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's just they've got a weird naming convention, so that I don't kind of agree with at this point. But,
well, what a rose that a rose by any other name. That's the great.
Yeah. So SPT Error says new racetrack looks fun, huh? Are you talking about the one that's at the pit, the mining outpost? Is that what you're talking about, SPT?
Or are you talking about the one that they seem possibly to be talking about in Star Citizen, inside Star Citizen, which we're about to watch?
Oh, there's one on the. Oh, okay. Well, that'll explain the name of it, because we haven't watched it yet, but we'll watch it in a minute. But he's talking about this one. Inside Star Citizen Star Kart Racing. Okay, well, yeah, I just thought that was going to be a filler episode, but I guess we'll have a watch of that in a minute. But yeah, not many people here. Oh, Badges is here. Oh, Badges, how you doing, man?
Badges, welcome. Lovely to see you.
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure to see you, mate.
Yeah, you can stop on here.
Even if we do bag out the Perseus on you, But...
that's true. That's true. Someone's got to be the punching bag, And
as long as it's not me, I don't mind.
Yeah. Badges, do you want to drop in and give us your thoughts on the Centurion while you're here if you want? It's totally up to you. If you
Being a military type dude.
Yeah. Might be.
Oh, he didn't take long. Hey, Badges.
How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
Good.
Yeah. So what's your take on the Centurion? Why we've got you here?
Yeah, well, I think it's it's interesting because when SA and I forget who else was on the episode.
Drazen.
Yes, we were talking about using the same chassis for different purposes, and this seems to be where they're going. So I know some people call it lazy, get that, but I think it's a natural evolution, and the nice thing is when you're familiar with one, you're familiar with them all.
Yeah.
And I just anything with that amount of DACA has always got my vote.
Yeah, it's basically a hammerhead turret, isn't it? From what I'm aware.
Yes.
I could be mistaken, but yeah.
It is a hammerhead turret from my memory. Four size 4 laser repeaters.
Yeah, but we actually did an episode way back when the Spartan came out, but it had sound errors that we did actually talk about in the episode that we I can't remember the title. It's along the lines of copy pasting features, but we actually recorded that. And one of the guys had really bad sound, so we were going to get back together and did it, but it just dropped off, and so it took it all the way until now until we did it again. But yeah, that copy pasting of the turret, so to speak, to ground installations type stuff was also in there as well, because it's what they do in the real world, don't they? And I remember you guys showing me a lot of images of things like the J-Wiz and stuff like that.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's
do they?
Sorry,
I was just going to ask real quick. Do they also have? So let's just take the example of that J-Wiz. Does that J-Wiz appear on the back of different trucks as well, or does it only appear on the one vehicle in real life? I'm just curious. Is that a part of its modularity, so to speak?
So, yes. So they end up on lots of different ships. Lots of different platforms, including ships and stuff like that. So you'll find that platforms like that will spread around various different things. So exactly as you said, you see a system from something as big as the Hammerhead ported across to a smaller size to something like the Centurion, but that makes sense, absolutely. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we get next. Because if you look at inspiration from the real world, the amount of stuff, there's recovery vehicles, there's stuff that can tow, there's stuff that can take out tanks, like tank destroyers. So they're not as heavily armoured, but they pack a whopping great single gun, and they're basically designed to sit somewhere stealthy, pop a tank, and then back off, and so on.
I'm hoping that some of this system really does become modularity, because one of the other things is if you notice how there's only a single gun on the turret this time. So does that mean you could take a single gun off the turret and put that, say, back onto the ballista? And so you can have a bigger, an up gun size, as you can see there in the image right there. But yeah, I'm hoping that it'll all mix and match in the end. That's what I'm hoping.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to see those different variants as well.
Well, you kind of alluded to that at the start, Algared, and that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, it looks like that's what it's going to, but there only seems to be kind of really they call it the Atlas platform, but basically there's only really 2 variants, and they kind of mix and match. And as you said, that kind of the one with the turret on the back, and then the kind of the Spartan with the trailer. And I know SA is a big fan of the medic one as a trailer, so you'd have some kind of medic bed for extracting someone out. And I think the other one him and Drazen talked about was like a command and control variant.
Yes.
And I think someone talked about a radar variant. And the funny thing is, if you actually look at that turret, it actually kind of does have see there, you can kind of see the radar dish on it. So
it does look like it does have a radar dish there.
Yeah, and I suggested one that they wouldn't be in the military, and they did kind of agree if it brought it in, and that was a shield variant. If they ever have some kind of like a deployable shield, you could literally have that off the back of the because I almost see, you correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know how it is in the real world, so I'm going to kind of defer to your military expertise here, Badges, but you might have a fleet of these, and I don't know how many that is, but they're all customized to do a particular one-off job. You know what I mean? So you might have, say, 5 or 6 of them working together, and I just find that really interesting. But at the same time, I also asked myself, would that have been more interesting if they were separate, individual, completely different vehicles? But it also does make the modularity, in the final game, I kind of have to ask myself, what would I prefer, unique vehicles or modularity? And they both have benefits, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, from a purely interest point of view, you've got to go with the individual platforms, right? Everything different. You get different artists and all that to come and play, and that would be great.
Yeah.
I also think, you know, what the reason this happens in the real world will actually be useful in the game, and the reason for that is, you know, let's take a chassis. You take the ballista chassis, the Spartan chassis.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a size whatever engine and a size, you know, and these size coolers, and it takes this size computer and that sort of stuff. And that's great. Hey, David Murray-Dewan in chat. Sorry, I didn't see your message saying hello. But, you know, you take those. So when you stock your logistics ship up with this, you know that with that size engine, if any of that variant have a problem with their engine, you just swap it out for that size. You've got the right size because it fits that chassis. Whereas if you were going to do it with all individual stuff, different size engines, different size components, some might have bespoke parts, you know, all that sort of stuff, it becomes a much bigger nightmare, you know, whereas, you know, one, you say, okay, what stuff do I need for this? I need you to find size 1 vehicle engines and size 1 vehicle shields and size 2 power plants and this sort of stuff.
You can basically just have one vehicle come with a bunch of components to repair them all. I see the benefits.
Precisely, yeah. And you can even get to the point where you cannibalize them for spares. You know, and
that's a good idea.
You take one offline.
You do see that. You know, you saw that type of thing in World War II. You currently see that type of thing happening in the Ukraine. You know, they'll get stuff and they'll rip the bits off and use it to put other stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I was just thinking of as you were talking, even though in World War II, and I've got to talk the German tanks and I can only refer to the Allied tanks a little bit. But even though the German recovery vehicles were using the same chassis as you know, the Mark IV or the Mark III or even the Tiger, because they'd taken the turret off and put the cranes on and all the rest of it, they were unique vehicles. You didn't take that back and put the turret on that now. You kind of left it it was a distinct. They kind of kept it as distinct vehicles, even though they were the same chassis and using the same repair parts, just because they needed them. So there's that element where having them separate vehicles is a bonus. In the modern world, in the modern day with our naval ships, we see that idea about versatility of being able to swap the components out. But my understanding is also the first American ships to do that, they actually found it was too expensive to do that, so they stopped. I could have that bit wrong, but they ended up just, it seemed, equipping those little frigates that were supposedly really versatile to specific jobs rather than taking in and just changing the components over. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but
2 secs. SA, if you're able to drop in voice, drop in, man, because I'd love you to drop in your 2 cents too, since you're on that video. If you're able to, SA, drop in. Sorry, Algared.
Love to hear it. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Any of the military guys can chuck in, because I might know my World War II military stuff.
I just, because the reason I'm deferring a lot to the military guys here is it seems to be that they're kind of finally they seem to like they're finally taking advice of people. Like, you know, for years where the people saying you wouldn't do that or you wouldn't do this. And one of the ones I've heard come up in the last couple of weeks was there are no captain's chairs in a lot of the ships. Like, the only one I can think of is the Starfarer off the top of my head. But a lot of those bigger ships, they don't have captain's chairs, and a lot of people say that the structure of how the military kind of works won't work in a lot of the ships, because the captain will just have to walk around, and he won't have his own MFDs and stuff like that. So does that mean they're just going to I'm trying to think of a ship that you'd want it in. Like, let's say the Polaris, right? We haven't seen the cockpit for the Polaris kind of laid out yet. Does that mean one of the default stations, someone will just go, right, I am the captain now? Like, and is that how it's going to work? So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So the interesting thing nowadays is that we're gone from the old kind of, as you say, the World War II sort of stuff. The captain will fight the ship from the operations room. So, and we haven't seen anything like an operations room. For my American colleagues, for people like I say, they'll know it as the CIC. I believe it's the Combat Information Center. But it's a room deep within the ship. If you've seen any of the James Bond films and stuff like that, you will have seen this. But it's full of radar screens. It's all dark. Everyone dresses up really silly. They've got like face masks on and that sort of stuff to protect from something called flash. But it's where the captain makes all his decisions. So there is no chair. The closest thing I think we've seen to that so far is the back of the bridge in the Idris and the back of the bridge in the Bengal, going all the way back to the initial Kickstarter video. Right. Where you've just got loads and loads of screens and everyone will, one person will be like, right, I am anti-fighter. Right, I am anti-medium ship. I am anti-large,
Okay. So
that sort of stuff.
He will essentially then walk around. He won't have a chair. Okay.
Yeah, so he'll have a chair in the ops room and a screen, but it's, he's not necessarily going to be interacting with it that much. He'll be ranging up, ranging down. But it's the job of everyone around him to give him advice and, say this is the threat I think we need to counter first and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, I could see him being there, and the guy who's doing watching for fighters would be saying, we've got X number of fighters coming in here, we've got a war, and someone else is saying we've got missiles coming in here, and he'd be saying, right, he'd be making the call, okay, we're dealing with that threat first, we're dealing with that threat, and then instructing the guys who are telling him what's going on, rather than sitting there looking at all the screens and then making the call of, pressing the button saying that.
Yeah. So, Robert Vose in the chat has said 890 Jump has a CIC, does it not? Yeah, it's got a battle bridge in effect, but that's still given over to steering the ship. So, yeah, and Daniel Espinosa's got it exactly right. The reason we're unlikely to see a separate room like that is that it makes sense in the real world. It's boring in games. You want to know where you are. You want to see around. Yep. You want to have some reference to your surroundings. You want to be, but you definitely want a captain seat. You're right. It is a weird thing. You want that. It's almost like the Constellation has one. You would expect the center seat to actually be your captain, and to kind of sit back slightly from the other two, so he can glance to his, or she, of course, can glance to their right, glance to the left, and almost overlook the panels of the people to the right and left.
Yep.
So they've got that oversight of what the pilot and what the missile thing is doing. So yeah, you've got a couple of places like that, and I think
Daniel Espinosa is saying that the Carrack has the captain's pedestal, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't really see that as a captain's pedestal, because that top bridge is, again, you're controlling the ship, you're flying. That's the pilots.
Yeah, wasn't it what they call it? It was like some kind of flight deck thing. It had a special name.
It's a secondary flight.
Yeah, it's
deck.
like a flying bridge sort of thing.
Yeah.
You'd almost think it was for landing because it was like high up and you could see down. And I think of the movie Prometheus. The actor was Elba. I can't remember his name, but he was standing up on that kind of like looking down. I think that's where they got it from. And they used it specifically for landing because like it allows you to see down and stuff like that.
I got the impression it was more because of the way the the armor roll screens on the Carrack is supposed to work. That position when the roll screens come down is actually more protected than the lower bridge.
Could be.
But that could just be...
Could be a bit of column A, a bit of column B. We'll have to wait and see, huh?
Yeah, I think the only time we might see something like a CIC or an ops room like that will be the fleet command module.
All right.
So when you've got a capital ship that's trying to deal with multiple others. But, yeah.
Okay. The bot is up, by the way.
In answer to
Can I
Black Death Hunk's comment in Twitch. The 890 would have a battle bridge on its in it because it's as a sightseeing ship because it is a safe room. It's not a combat ship. It's not a ship that was built for battle. You can take it into battle if you want, but it's not a ship designed to be a ship of a line, slugging it out with other ships.
So real quick, the bot is up. So if you have a question, please ask a question. We do have one question that came in today, so I'm going to actually jump over to that because he's asked this, and I think it's kind of interesting. Here in the Demir asked any theories as to what the new ship variant is that was mentioned in the most recent monthly report. And if you kind of go through here in the monthly report, you can see here they worked on the Argo SOV, so that's pretty cool. That's coming. And then their development of an unannounced ship is continued. Saw the grey box complete, the cockpit, the dashboard, the habitation and cargo. So it's got living quarters and cargo. The team also progressed the exterior hull to final art, so that means it's not too far away. Final art plus announced, the final art plus an unannounced ground vehicle was finalized. The artist then moved on to a pass of the MISC Hull C. So I would say they're probably ships that we're looking at for CitizenCon, or maybe one of them will come as a one-off concept between now and the end of the year. But man, it would just be a total stab in the dark if I was to guess. But habitation, that kind of makes me think. You're looking at. It sounds like a cargo ship, but it could be anything, couldn't it, Algared? It could be something like an Apollo that has cargo, living quarters, and something else. It really could be anything. So yeah, it's a complete stab in the dark there. Algared, do you want to?
I was just thinking, we're in August. We're a month and a bit away from IAE. I just think that
that's a good
vehicle, point. Ship, other thing. We know we usually get three ships.
We tend to get one at the kind of release date of Star Citizen, which is October 10, around there, and then we tend to get 2 or 3. Or usually it used to be 3, but this year they broke that at Invictus, didn't they? And then you had 2. So yeah, but that's where they'll be landing, somewhere near there. I'd have to imagine. I agree with you on that one. What about you, Badgers? Anything you want to? Anything you think that might be on the cards that you've heard, or?
No, I'm trying to wrap my brain. The unannounced variant of an existing ship with modifications to the exterior nearing completion. I'm trying to think what that would be.
It means it's fairly far along though, so it's going to be flight ready. Yeah, that's essentially what that says, which is cool. So we're getting something that's going straight in. I would have to imagine, and the interesting thing is the fact that it says habitation and cargo, right? That makes me think that it's at least Freelancer Cutlass size. So it's bigger than what we're used to, because normally the straight flight ready stuff's like a fighter, right? So it's definitely bigger than that, which is kind of interesting. I would, and just going along with, we did a vote a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, Algared? People were hoping for Freelancer Cutlass size ship, and I'm, fingers crossed it's something along that size.
It'd be nice if it is, as long, I just hope. Beyond hope that it's not another stupid bloody steal.
Did you see what he put in chat? SPT error goes the Drake Rainbow.
Yeah, well, I just hope it's not. I just hope it's not another steal.
Nice.
That was
the Cutlass play.
Cutlass plaid. The Cutlass
plaid.
Brilliant.
The names could get a bit wacky there. Yeah. I would hope that it's I don't know. I like my hope, right? And it is a hope and a prayer that is something that is gameplay related. So, like, I'd love to see something like the medium salvage, or or the large miner, or something like that.
That execute. The Cutlass steel is gameplay related.
I mean industrial gameplay related. There you go. I cover my bases now. But yeah.
I had to say that because as much as I do hate the steel, you can see it does have a value in things like, you can see how Nine Tails would use it for Orison, I think, attack. You could see it being useful for, as much as I hate to say it, Jump Town. You could see it being useful for any ground mission type things. And with the increased cap of players, those ships have increased value. But do we need another one?
Have to wait.
I think we've had Essay join us if we wanted to double back to the Centurion just quickly.
Just before we do that, there's also an unannounced variant of an existing vehicle there as well. So I'm curious to know what you guys, what would be a vehicle that we could use in game right now that, you know, I'm trying to think, and the only thing that I can kind of think of is another cargo type vehicle, kind of like the Mule, but I could be wrong there.
Medical,
obviously. Medical
a vehicle
would be a good one.
A bed, radar, SRV.
Well, you got to look at the gameplay that's in, and I'll give you medical, but I won't give you radar. But yeah, I'll have to wait and see. Yeah, SA, if you're still there, man. You want to give us your thoughts on the Centurion? Still there, bud? There he is.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted like an idiot. Yeah, like
So
what particular
you were
questions do
talking
you have?
and wondering why we weren't responding.
Like, what particular questions do you have about it, or like what?
What do you
I
like?
wasn't there for the conversation.
So we kind of went over how like the modularity of them, and yeah, I kind of just want to get your thoughts on how modular you reckon these are going to be, and do you think picking one up is you know, is it going to pay off in the end where they become really modular, or do you think they are going to keep them more bespoke? But like everything Badger said, like with the modules and the repairability and stuff like that, would still remain true. It's just that they would be still individual, and I just don't see them keeping them individual like that. It seems to be it kind of like it lacks gameplay, like it just locks them down for almost no reason, and I just don't see why you'd want to do that. But
I mean, logically, I agree with you. I think that they need modularity pretty badly, but I just don't see them doing it based off their current fundraising model and selling these unique variants. You know, should they be modular? Yes, they should have modularity, but will they? I'm very doubtful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at real world platforms, you know, they do have to be refitted, and ships are a little more complicated, as Badgers can speak to. Refitting a ship is a huge undertaking. But there are real world vehicles that can be sent off to be refitted and then changed into a different type of vehicle with different capabilities. So, you know, it is something that they should be considering, but I just don't think that they would do that. Now, looking at like the gameplay value of the Centurion, you know, I mean, obviously I agree with you guys when it comes to vehicles. Don't spend money on them, you know, unless you are trying to back the game and really, you know, you're doing it for the pledging, not for the value of the vehicle, then fine, go for it. Yeah. But when it comes down to like gameplay,
you can always pick one up, can't you, and exit strategy out at a later date too. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you need a what is it? Oh my goodness. Lifetime insurance token, then yeah, you know, LTI token, grab one. I mean, if that's in the range of where, you know, you want to go up to a ship for it, it has value there.
The other thing,
in game, they're just going to be common.
The other thing we talked briefly about is how you talked about the command and control and the medical variants. Like, you still think they're the kind of top two that we're likely to see that are kind of off the Spartan?
I think the number one that they need, I don't know if they're going to do it, is the command and control. It's just a really valuable platform, especially for for large scale ground battles. I actually think a flatbed is probably more likely than a medical. So just a transport truck, basically, with a flat back that you can put a tonk on it, or you can salvage vehicles or put supplies and cargo. I think that's probably more likely.
You know, the tonk is as big as this whole platform, so you reckon it would be quite long and could actually carry a Nova?
Yeah, I basically would just see it be extended. I don't know if a Nova's in the cards, because that's if you look at real world, it's usually a very different vehicle that hauls around armor. But the ability to throw a cyclone on the back, I could see be a thing. It may actually have a kind of a different back to it, just because the way the vehicle's designed, it might actually need to be a little bit longer.
So essentially,
that's more likely.
So essentially a cargo carrier variant.
Yeah, just a very.
I was just going to say, you look at the pictures we're getting scroll through on screen, and you can see the design of the Atlas really does loan itself to modularity just with that back trailer section. It is an articulated vehicle in terms of, 4 wheels at the front, 4 wheels at the back with a kind of a linchpin, and it really does look like front bits are standard, and then you click on the appropriate trailer. It does really seem to lend itself to being modular in terms of offering those different parts. But
we got a question.
No, definitely.
We got a question from PC, and I'll put this to Badges and Esso, and either of you guys can answer this. It says, "Will we see an artillery-based one?"
We talked about that in the video. So, I mean, I actually am kind of leaning towards the yes, but we may already have our artillery variant, which is the ability to put in to put a type of artillery rocket on the ballista. The types of artillery there are is that you have shell artillery and then you have rocket artillery. So do I think we're going to get a variant? We may already have one, depending on what you can equip onto the ballista. And 2, an artillery variant for a standard shell or guided munition artillery would be fantastic. It would really add to the ground gameplay. The real question is, where is CIG going with this ground combat? Because it's... Yeah, I'm a Theaters of War conspiracy nut, so I think that's what they're doing all this for, is getting ready for that. But, large-scale ground combat is extremely resource-intensive.
And look, I think they're going everywhere with the gameplay. They've always said they want the game to be everything. The best damn space sim ever. Well, it's the best damn, I don't know, war game / space sim / land combat, first person shooter, survival sim ever. And I think that's when you start thinking that you can see they are kind of pushing those bounds and getting there, but there's still a long way to go. And will it end up being that? Will they give it a good damn push? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll roll off onto Inside Star Citizen now. If you guys want to watch, I will switch the thing over so you guys here in chat can watch as well. Hold on. Before we do begin, if you're watching don't forget, if you're watching in Twitch or if you're watching in YouTube, if you do have a question or a comment you want us to pay attention to, chuck it in with the word question and our bot will pick it up, and that will guarantee we actually see it. And for those who have backed us in the past, thank you very much. We do appreciate that a great deal. And I'll dig out your names and say yay. And I was in Siege of Orison earlier, and I do have to do a shout out to Threebeards, who, when I was incapacitated, he came and saved me. So Threebeards, thumbs up. Okay, good to go. Yeah, cool. I'm just trying to.
I just felt I had to do that. I had to do that shout out because.
No problem. I'm just trying to. I'm just having an issue with your green screen. I'm trying to fix it, but it's not working.
Oh.
It's all good. We'll just live with it. Here we go.
Racing I enjoy because I think deep down everyone enjoys going fast in some aspects.
It's about the overtaking, the racing that singular person. You get to follow them around and then you've got to work out a way to pass them.
You make little adjustments, you go a little bit faster, you push it a little bit harder, a little bit more to get a little bit more speed. It's a very satisfying loop.
In racing, it's a more controlled PvP environment, which is kind of like going to pure peak performance of the player.
Racing in Star Citizen, I think there's a very dedicated core community to it, and they're doing an amazing job with what is there, and I hope in the future that we'll be able to provide a lot more support to them.
There are many ways to spend your time in the Star Citizen universe. That ever-expanding sandbox that lets you hunt dangerous criminals, haul cargo from one planet to another, harvest resources from asteroids to caves, and much, much more. But one aspect that's been driven almost entirely by the community is racing. A way to test the mettle of your pedal against other players at any time or place. That's why when a small handful of developers recently found themselves with just a little bit of spare time between tasks, they took inspiration from the community and created 2 new racing experiences for the persistent universe that we'll be showcasing here today. Now up first, let's learn how the Snake Pit racetrack, originally conceived by the community, had its industrial makeover in the recently released Alpha 317.2.
The Snake Pit was actually inspired by videos from the community. It's this racetrack that's been proven to be fun and successful time and over again. I just figured why not try and bring it to the next level. I wanted to create something that's believable, that could tell a story like at a first glance, something that would be fun for the racers and something that would even be fun for any spectator that just wanted to come there, chill, watch the race. Because I had the idea to make this racetrack, I think it was the same day that we branched to go into Evocati. I had just a limited number of days before this could go to the backers and into the PTU. So everything we did for the racetrack needed to be assets that already existed if we wanted to make the cut for 317.2. The process was a couple of hours of going through assets, putting them on the planet, setting them up, seeing if they feel good. I wanted also to place a few landing pads here and there on like specific turns where people could just be there and watch the ships as they drift around those corners. The Snake Pit is way bigger than any racetrack that I would have imagined. I think most of the game devs that I know usually work on cool little things on their free time, whether it's work related or not. We just do it just to keep up with what's going on in the industry. I've worked on multiple AAA projects in other companies, and this is the only one where you're actually even encouraged a little bit to go out of the beaten path and talk to the community, listen to what they have to say. It's not something that you find anywhere else. So this is definitely for me as an added bonus to my work to just have this interaction with people.
It's pretty cool they're encouraged to do that, actually.
Yeah, that is a huge. I think that's a huge advantage for what CIG does. Or it's a huge difference that CIG does in terms of encouraging the devs to engage with the community and find out what they're doing. And that live play we've got is because we do the PU while they're still building the game, because we're playing while we're in alpha. That really does give them that feedback, which I think a lot of other companies don't get.
I'm also surprised how quickly he macked that all up, like just a couple of hours. That's pretty cool.
A couple of hours of going through and ripping out the assets.
Shows you how strong those tools are now.
Yeah.
Also, weren't we looking at that before 17.2? Weren't we exploring that before?
Yeah.
I swore we were.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And he's just gone in and added all the, I guess, essentially the mining stuff and dressed it all up. So he took what was already there and just enhanced it.
And just dressed it and added extra platforms for people to land on. So, put viewing platforms in and
Yes, but that's what I mean in terms of all the buildings that they put in. I haven't been back there since the 17.2 launched, but we were looking at it. We were landing, walking around the buildings.
Yeah.
So that's been in. It's
I didn't
been
even
in a little bit before.
I didn't even realize it was a racetrack until like I saw people, like there was heaps more people on Twitch that were going around it and really highlighted it. But for me at the time, I thought it was just some kind of building they put in for a quest or something. But as he said in the video, obviously there's been people racing there before. So,
So we see what you're doing, CIG, you sneaky people.
Of course, you did see the 890 jump going through the Snake Pit. So 890 jump racer through the Snake Pit. Certainly sites. I wouldn't want to be racing with the 890 through that, although several 890s trying to race around that could be interesting. But But as one of the as Black Dream Hunk said in chat, it would be great to see not only land-based tracks, but also sky tracks or space tracks put in. I know that Crux Cup and Southern Cross Alliance Crux Cup and their Apex Rising, I think it is. We actually do look at, or Echo does look at designing tracks that are space tracks or in space. So I think it's Apex Rising is basically asteroid track.
Didn't you just mention that there are 2 tracks? I mean,
I think we're about to see the second one.
We're about to see the
now.
second one. So
I'm hopeful for a space one.
Well,
I mean, the one thing I want to point out about this too, which I really like, is we're not seeing a lot of the design, but it looks like you may be able to do vehicles on the surface on the same track.
yeah, that one certainly does. I'm going to guess that our second track though is kart racing because it's called Star Kart Racing. So
what I was going
to
say though is I'd like to see them just take the rings out of the old, what was it, the old
Arena Commander.
Arena Commander, and you could just chuck those in space somewhere and make one.
Yep.
So yeah, all right.
Oh look, if they made those assets available to even players to be able to buy and place at times, that would be a huge help for designing tracks.
Using the time between tasks while waiting for other resources to become available and making fun things inspired by the players has led to a number of features, assets, and otherwise neat stuff making their way to the persistent universe over the years. And it just so happens that one of the next ones is making its way to you in the upcoming Alpha 318, and it features a different kind of racing experience.
When we finished working on Siege of Orion, my lead approached me and told me about those convention halls, that they are most of the time empty in between the events, and maybe we should fill it with something fun for the player. We collected some ideas and decided to go for a buggy racetrack.
We've brought it back.
When we started, we didn't want to take this go-kart track too serious. We wanted to make something colorful and playful. So our main inspirations were obviously a very popular racing game. We took also inspirations from laser tag, those blacklight paintball arenas, stuff like that.
I'm actually surprised they didn't use the mule because of the drifting. Because you got to. I don't know if you've played Mario Kart. You've actually got to drift in Mario Kart to get the top speed. So the mule would have been a better choice than the PTV.
I don't know. I can see what you're saying, but the PTV, you'll remember way back in the old hangar days.
Yeah, I do, but I'm just talking because they didn't say Mario Kart, but that's what they're hinting at. That's why it's called Star Kart. In Mario Kart specifically, you have to drift, and so the mule is the most drifty thing that we have in the game, like that.
But it is nice having the for me, as I said, it's back. But the fact that you've got the go-kart track kind of back on steroids.
They need to make a racing skin now for the PTV.
Yeah,
100%.
So I had 3 weeks in total to finish the whole racetrack, from the first idea to the final product. It was basically a one-man project. I tried to make the racetrack as modular as possible, so I created a few of those racetrack pieces and just put them together in a way that it's fun for me to play it. My favorite part of the racetrack is probably where you have to jump over a ramp.
That's pretty cool.
We have been testing the racetrack internally, and it's already a lot of fun.
But did you get how long it took him to do it?
Yeah, what was it? A couple of days?
3 weeks.
The physics of the Grey Cats is something we are looking into, because we also had a loop-the-loop, but the Grey Cats were not fast enough to take it, so we had to cut it out. But in the future, we hope that we can put it in.
Isn't it?
That is a very
So
small
what did we
loop
learn
to
this
loop.
week? Well, we learned that the staggered nature of video game development can often lead to fun little side projects by developers with big amounts of fun. That the team here continues to not just take feedback from the community, but inspiration for their work as well. And that racing is in the hearts of many of our developers, and we're always going to look for more ways to squeeze just a little more in here and there whenever we can. We're inside Star Citizen. I'm Jared Huckabee. Behind me is our new, still under construction performance capture studio right next door to the Manchester Goods Yard building, soon to be home to CIG Manchester, and where you can be very certain I'm going to do many silly and stupid things when the time arrives. And to my left is the Rover's Return Inn from some UK soap opera that everybody here tells me was a big deal. We'll see you all next week.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
If that was real, that'd be awesome.
Go him.
Literally Mario Kart in SC.
Yeah.
What if they did? We talked about this previously. There's a vehicle called the MRZR. The military will use it for going forward with a very small platform. It fits in a C-130 and a variety of other methods to transport it. But basically, it's a like a Polaris. I don't know if you're familiar with those vehicles in Australia, but it's like a buggy. And we have them fitted with a crew-served weapon in the passenger seat.
Polaris,
so what if we got a great cat?
So Polaris here is a quad bike.
Yeah, it's not a quad bike. It's a it's like a little buggy here. The company is called Polaris, not the actual vehicles. But the ours have one model in particular as a crew-served weapon for the passenger side. What if they come out with a Grey Cat, the exact same thing, but with a crew-served weapon, like a size 1 mounted on the passenger side for 2-person racing?
Oh, like the ones in Battlefield 2 back in the day. Is that what you're talking about? Where they had the guy on the back and then they had the passenger that had a gun like that and it just shot forward. Is that what you're talking about?
Pretty much, yeah. Nobody on the back, but just that would be an amazing 2-person race.
Like a BMW sidecar, World War II German.
Yeah, and just make it a distortion weapon.
Yep.
Yeah, make it a distortion weapon so you can just take out the vehicle in front of you and keep going.
So are you saying that the unannounced vehicle variant is a Grey Cat?
Absolutely, but not in the way you think. It's just a Grey Cat R racing variant. Thanks, Can, for that idea. I'm shamelessly stealing that. Passing off to my own. And it's got 4 missiles without warheads, and they're basically your nitrous, so you just fire it, and this thing becomes basically impossible to control as you hammer off
a bit
down
like
the
Mario
tracks.
Kart, when you hit that nitrous.
Yeah. Cheap at twice the price. Our LTI only $75.
I also thought back in the old days when the Grey Cat had the course in the hangars, I thought there was a loop, and I thought the Grey Cat could do it. So it's interesting that he said the Grey Cat couldn't do it.
There's never been a loop.
Okay.
Never.
People would flip them. There was a corkscrew.
Must have been Disco's.
There was a jump. But there was no loop.
It must have been Disco's kind of one of his videos he did way back then that kind of had the I wanted the Sucks 6000 or whatever he called it, which which kind of had a loop because I could have swore there was a loop somewhere, but hey, I'm old or getting older, so put it down to that.
I mean, I'm super excited with this direction. One, I love racing go-karts. It's just fun. And 2, putting use into buildings. Like, they could also do one in Norris in one of the halls that's just like a laser tag. Where, you're wearing little vests and stuff and you can go and practice your close quarters combat or close quarters battle, tactics. It would be pretty amazing. I'd be really into that.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the idea of using Star Marine. The idea of Star Marine was that type of thing. You go into the live, into the video game in game and practice your skills. But
I was just actually thinking, rather than actually making a whole new vehicle, you could actually just have a distortion gun and a passenger, and they kind of just lean out of the cart and shoot in front.
Yep. Well, I know
you would need a whole new vehicle.
I know with the Apex Rising, I think it's the Apex Rising. I should go check that. But but Southern Cross Alliance have started as one of the offshoot kind of races with Crux Cup. Is the idea of that is it is racing in the asteroids, but it's live fire as long you're allowed distortion weapons. That's it. And so that was to kind of pull in ideas that came from the Murray Cup. So if you read the stories of the Murray Cup, there was one where they actually had that was live fire and they could shoot weapons and limited live fire, and you just had to cope with that. So,
Ooh. What if a Grey Cat that could drop little distortion mines behind it?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, instead of the countermeasures, it's got half a dozen little mines, or one.
Or even simply, they just put an animation. Your character just drops it out the side.
Yeah, I mean,
simple.
The thing that I love about this idea. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you. The thing that I love about these concepts, like the ability to reuse these halls to do like laser tag and go-kart racing, is it gives the community things to do. It gives the community the ability to set up tournaments and competitions, and to get together to practice, to get better. And like those are the things that the community needs, because we do that already in various ways. A good example is John in mining, right? Like that whole here's somebody to teach you to be better at what you're doing. But this type of thing really, I think, would generate, especially for streamers. I mean, I think it would actually go very well for them.
Speaking of John, I actually jumped on his server. I'm gonna go find him.
In your racing.
I thought I'd do some low flying into our crash, so that'll be pretty quick. And then
you tend to be last time you were low flying and talking, you were crashing quite a lot. So you suffer the same fate I do when you start talking.
It's a skill.
And stop playing. Yeah. You don't multitask well.
No, it's a developed skill.
What,
it's streaming entertainment. Yeah. I don't watch streams for people to be successful at landing. I watch so they can crash.
Yeah. I'm like a UEE and Admiral. I'm pretty certain I would crash javelins and Idrises and Bengals into planets, because that's what admirals do. So they were obviously talking to someone while they were trying to fly the ship, but got distracted. But let's have a look at some of these questions. Have we gone through lots of them? Let's see.
Actually, that first one there, what do you guys think about salvaging coming 318, considering we've seen very little on the physical damage system, can't salvage much if its ship pops out and disappears? If you actually look at the roadmap, it confirmed what I was saying. The outer shell is stripping and the inside is munching, because munching is now on the roadmap for next year.
Yeah.
I think what we're likely to see in the interim before ships' hulls become persistent and stuff is they will become nodes. So you'll discover them, or you'll be sent out on a mission to get them, or whatever. So they'll be, at the moment, exactly like you're asked to recover cargo. You don't do that from ships from people that were destroyed during the game. It's a spawned-in ship. You go and collect the cargo and you move on, sort of thing. I think Salvage is going to work very much like that initially.
And they could even those sites could even do double duty. There's the black box for someone to recover, but there's also a ship to be stripped. And there's also to pick up.
And then you have that kind of moment of another ship turns up. Who's that? Are they here for the same thing?
Are they here to kill me? Are they here to trip a hull as well? Are they here to get the black box? Are they here to get the cargo? So that type of thing is certainly advantageous. And if you're not having to do as much work, that's a positive as well for the developers, I'm sure.
So whilst we've just admitted, it's fine for X to not respond or respond slowly because he's flying and stuff. Is it bad that I'm watching him doing what he's doing and I'm actually leaning into his turns, and I'm probably not going to respond for a while because I'm just waiting for him to explode?
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So what we've got to do is we've got to specifically ask him a question when he's coming to those difficult turns
didn't take long.
like that.
Wow. How have you still got wings? You should be basically...
No clue.
a flying Pringles tube at this point.
Yeah, it's an old model. Forgive me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. An old model. It's a Mustang.
Yeah.
If it was
so we
something else,
missed
it would
one
be a
quickly, which I'll answer whilst we're allowing X's heart rate to return to sub 200. Gabriel Kovacs asked, what would a cruiser be like in Star Citizen? I think that is impossible to answer at the moment because we don't have the cap ships in. To give you an idea of what a cruiser used to do in World War II, so people can... I'm not trying to set a role. I'll explain what it does in World War II, and then you guys can come to your own kind of thoughts as to what it might do. Basically, cruisers were around because they could keep up with carriers. Battleships generally couldn't. So they would be there to defend carriers from destroyers, because, of course, destroyers with their torpedoes would cause an awful lot of damage to a carrier, but they couldn't take much punishment. So having a cruiser there, something with big main guns to join in the fight, but also a lot of secondary armament that would absolutely mangle a destroyer, that's what cruisers were there for. They were also, in the long run, cheaper to run than battleships, because fewer crew, smaller weaponry, all that sort of stuff. So, and as long as they weren't... Sorry, go on.
And that limited, that lack of armour. Like, they didn't have it, they certainly restricted the armour, which gave them greater speed. And
there was a really good documentary I watched on Netflix. It was only 3 parts. It was like something about the history of oh man, I'll have to look it up. But it actually talked a lot about the different boats and stuff, and they literally talked about, there was a big stuff up. The guy wanted the boats for speed, and they literally lost like 11 of them in one day, and they were like these massive ships that took years to build, and if they built them with the armor, they wouldn't have been lost. And I think that's essentially what you're talking about. Yeah, that was the stripped down versions without the armor of the other ones.
Yep. So go on.
Sorry, go on, Algared.
I was going to say, you had your battleships, which were battle wagons. They could take the pounding, they had the big guns, but they were slow. So you brought out cruisers, which were faster, had less armour, but the same weapons, and so they were kind of in between battleships and the next class down. They were big guns, so they could outrange the other stuff, but they were lightly armoured, so they could actually go faster. So it was this kind of...
And with the advent of naval aviation, sorry, I say to you, I'll just finish my thought and then I'll give way. With the advent of naval aviation, it's a common misnomer that cruisers had more anti-aircraft power, firepower than battleships. That's incorrect. Battleships were just covered. They were bristling. What the cruisers had was a balance of speed and firepower that made them more effective against planes than battleships. Because battleships were prime targets for dive bombers, they were prime targets for torpedo bombers, because of their inability really to maneuver out of the way, whereas cruisers were much more effective in that. Sorry, I say go on, Mick.
No, all good, man. I mean, I'm not a naval guy, so it's pretty cool to, like, I think everybody in this group, I'm a geek, so I've watched documentaries and movies, of course, but it's new to me. I mean, well, not new, but just a different area of my expertise. But for those that are non-military, there are 2 general concepts and tactics for large-scale maneuver units. And maneuver would be fleet maneuver for naval sense, but it is denial of space and denial of movement. And basically what you're referring to is denial of space is basically saying, like a battleship, I have so much armor and firepower that you can come toe-to-toe with me, but you're likely not going to be successful. And denial of movement are your more rapid response pieces that keep, and things also like submarines and a variety of other weapon systems, but basically just keep you in a particular area where you cannot maneuver freely. And that goes for, because I've been involved with joint operations, that's both, and by the way, this is a gross oversimplification of a lot of jargon and other nonsense, but generally speaking, whether you're on land, air, or sea, those are basically, the general concepts. Can you deny somebody the ability to keep a space, or take a space, and can you deny them the ability to move around? But yeah, and actually, I don't even know what British doctrine is, but I assume it's probably fairly similar.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're struggling now because, you know, our army is basically the size of a couple of American football teams. But yeah, we're getting there slowly.
But the British
Anyway.
Army was always considered relatively small compared to European armies. Right?
Yes.
In that
Certainly Napoleonic days and stuff, it was...
In that documentary I watched, though, it talked about how the everyone was trying to compete with the British Navy back from World War
Yes.
One. Like, it was the biggest thing, and like Japan was trying to get closer, the United States was trying to get closer, Germany was trying to get closer, and they were all just way smaller than the British Navy.
Yeah. Well, the Americans developed a policy of second to none, so they were going to... Their policy was have more ships than any other navy. With the British clearly in their sights at that point, because the British were the biggest navy in the world.
Well, and they were legacy. I mean, they were... where the U.S. has failed with the majority of our military operations is that... what's the old... I'm the American, I can't remember the old saying, but it was like the one thing you can be assured, or some German general said, the one thing you can be certain of is the Americans' ability to not follow their own doctrine. Like, that is classic, like, you know, a great story out there, which some people that are military buffs would probably think is, you know, funny, but also kind of hilarious, is that there was a group of infantry in Iraq, Baghdad, I think it was Baghdad, trying to basically clear out a building, and on the third floor there was a group of insurgents, and every time they go up the stairwell they'd get shot at, so they couldn't, you know, with massive amount of firepower, so they couldn't go up. So this sergeant goes and gets like this long, I don't remember the story exactly, I think it's like a long stick, and like taped a claymore to it, and then like lifted it up over the edge of the stairs and set it off to kill everybody in the room. So that to me summarizes the American version of tactics, you know, better than anything else I could
He MacGyvered
I
that
could say.
shit. He MacGyvered it.
Yeah, no, exactly. But like you know, the Sherman tank is a great example of the American manufacturing and strategy. And if you watch the movie Fury, there's a good friend of mine is a tanker, a former tanker. Now I work with him directly, and he loves that movie because he's like, yeah, that's the fear you have of being caught on fire is like literally that. But he was like, I would never, you know, he was an M1, A1 old school armor guy, little tiny dude, really angry. And he would talk about like, I would never get in a Sherman because those things are literally like, if you get hit anywhere other than the very front, you're dead. So, you know, but they had so many of them, they could overwhelm.
I've heard that they were referred to as Ronsons because the Ronson lighter lit every time.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that too.
The Brits used to call it brewing up when they caught fire, and obviously a brew in British terminology is a cup of tea, but Shermans used to brew up.
So they,
Hilarious! I never heard that. That's awesome.
Aurelius,
I thought brewing up was just
sorry.
so common. That's an old phrase I've heard as well. I just thought that was just a standard thing for a tank that was burning. It's brewing up. So,
we need to do like a podcast of this where we come in and just kind of chat crap down the military vein and other things. We've got a lot of people with a lot of specialist knowledge. It might be quite good fun. But Aurelius, getting back on track, Aurelius Indomitus asks, is there a chance they will show anything about the Orion, CitizenCon, or IAE?
There's always a chance because mining's there, but I think the Orion, I don't know, you guys correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think the bigger a ship gets, the more systems it kind of has. So if you kind of look at like the difference between the Prospector and the Mole, like the Prospector's, the Mole's a step up from the Prospector. So you've got to imagine a couple of steps up, you know, you've kind of got you've got tractor beam operators bringing big rocks in, you've got the actual drill part of it, you know, you've actually got the processing part of it, the refining part of it, the storage part of it. Like, there are way more moving pieces to that than there are just the Prospector solo operation. So there's a lot more gameplay there that needs to be worked on. And I think so a lot of the bigger ships probably aren't going to come to a lot later, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely we'll see something on the Odyssey, just on the base that we saw Jax go off into Pyro last year. So does Jax come back for IAE? Is he missing? Does he report?
I'm going to be honest. I think that was just to sell Odysseys.
Oh,
Carrot killer. You know, like that's all I think that was. That was.
Yeah, look, but hey, it's will we see Jax? And if Jax comes back, what's he got to say on the Odyssey? And if he's not back, you know.
I wonder whether that was initially an attempt to have 4.0 out by this CitizenCon.
Yep.
So that you'd have a special little mission to go and rescue Jax for the period of CitizenCon, for like the week or so afterwards. You go and rescue Jax, and that's.
Yeah, I don't think they do a rescue, but they could, like, I could see them putting a mission line, like go find evidence of where Jax is, or, you know.
Yeah, that's like they did for the duck.
Yeah, or go and refuel his ship or whatever.
I have a really short answer for this question. Yes, you will get something of the Orion at one of the events. It'll be a holo viewer in the basement. Enjoy.
Oh,
there you go. So we'll get at least something. So yeah.
Rude.
Not the answer you were looking for, Aurelius.
Not the answer you were looking for.
I think it's a fair cop.
So remind me later on, because I don't want to derail this. We've got to start jumping through this question. But something about big ships later on, and if people are still on from this bit, it'll be interesting. Follow on. Okay, Aurelius and Domus asked at the same time. Would a Centurion be a ship you would offer for sale in your BMM cargo hold?
It depends who you're selling to. I think that's one of the advantages of the banner management.
Yeah.
You can kind of take what you want to who you're selling it to. So, you know, if you know a particular system you're heading to, you can pick up goods that are rare and obtainable in that area. So yeah.
If I can take something that's not used in that area and they need it, I'm sure I could find a market. But if it's a plant that makes Centurions, I ain't gonna sell squat. But yeah, why not?
I would push back and just say that, could you see that? Yeah. I mean, people are going to do it. Maybe not. I wouldn't do it in BMM. I mean, that's more of a contract thing. I don't know if people have seen the movie Lord of War, but that's somewhat based on a true story. I mean, that type of armament's usually going to just be a general cargo ship to maximize cube and kind of have a low profile. But all that being
Lord
said,
of War that Chris Roberts.
No, it's not.
No, that's what I was asking. That's what I was asking.
I mean, he produced it.
I could see a BMM.
All right.
I could see BMM pulling into like Pyro with nothing but all those shops. One is a small arms shop. One is a large arms shop. One is armor. Like all the stuff that you can't get illicit goods. You know, they have basically a smuggling / one-stop shop for just killing everybody. I think that's really what you're going to see with the BMM. I mean, the BMM to me, I said this to X a long time ago in some conversation, but it was like, it's the safest ship to fly in the verse. Because nobody really wants to kill you because everyone probably is relying on you in some way. Like, you're the mobile mall. People are bringing you things. You might get attacked, but a lot of other pirate organizations, if a pirate attacks you, other pirate orgs are going to be pissed because they can't get their deliveries of their goods.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping the way it will work is that ships like the Cutty Red, the Apollo, will have the same sort of protection. Why on earth would you go and attack something you may rely on later to come and rescue? That's just daft.
I mean, like an ambulance today.
Yeah, right. Why would you go and tip it over and set fire to it and, all that sort of nonsense?
I mean,
that would just be ridiculous.
Well, some people
we've had riots where people tip over cop cars, set those on fire, but they don't do that to the ambulances.
Yeah.
Unless there's
you've obviously got a better class of yob that we have over here than we have over here.
Damn.
Unfortunately, unfortunately it happens to all emergency services. I've known there are groups of youths in certain cities, mentioning no names, that will actually go out and set fire so they can throw stones at the firefighters when the firefighters turn up.
You're not talking about Manchester, I hope. And I only say
No
that
comment.
because that's where CIG is. So we've done.
You're depressing the shit out of me right now because, like, yeah, I have a very, as you can probably guess from being in the military, I have a very pro civil service. Like, to me, teachers, firefighters, doctors, like, you know, police officers, people that put their lives on the line to protect others. They're not perfect. I'm not saying everything's perfect. What I'm saying is that, like, you know, they deserve the concept of their service deserves respect.
Yes.
But that kind of, yeah. But ambulance, you know, like I know EMTs. I actually had an EMT cert at one point. Yeah, the idea of them being assaulted for trying to help people is, pretty crazy to me.
Yeah.
Feel you put the teacher in there just to cover your bases with your wife. But anyway, yeah, I believe you.
I was expecting like a much quicker landing. You'd bounce off the walls, land it, and then just do the whole like a glove and walk across the landing pad as your arrow explodes.
I've done that.
Yep.
I was promised a crash. I'm yet to have seen this crash.
We've had a crash. We've had a crash.
I was just like, say nothing, because you were talking the whole time, like, oh cool, he's just covering it, no one's saying anything, that's great. Just keep going. Yep, nothing happened. Just moving on. Yeah.
Yep. Hey, so we were kind. We saw you crash.
Yeah.
We saw you wake up in the
Gabriel,
hospital. I'll take that.
Gabriel Kovacs asks, do y'all think there will be a dedicated CIC ship like the USMC has? I do apologise. I murder any accent, so I'm not going to bother. If I jump into this one, is because I didn't really go into the BMM one because everyone had much better answers than I did. I like the idea of a drone control ship.
Yeah, that's been heard a lot of times. We've even talked about like, we called it like the manta ray. Remember, Algared? That big spy ship thing with drones and surveillance and a whole bunch of stuff. And it was kind of like you could use it for bounty hunting or tracking or a whole bunch of stuff. But there are a lot of professions that are kind of announced where they don't seem to have that high-end ship. Isn't there, Algared? There's 3 or 4 of them. Like, and bounty hunting's one of them. There's a lot of smaller bounty hunting ships, but there's not a... What's the biggest we've got? Essentially is the Redeemer. It's the biggest thing we've got.
Yeah.
There's not anything that's a level up.
And if you're looking at if you look at the bounty hunting with the cells, the biggest one we've got that players have is the Cutlass Blue. Yes, we've seen the Caterpillar with the cells in a mission, but we don't have access to buying, getting those modules yet. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, just keeping this on within the realms of Gabriel's question, the whole what you're talking about, I think, is the way CIG are going to represent that is the fleet command module that they've mentioned in the stretch goals. It's still in there if you want to go see it, and that is kind of realistic to what would happen, really, because you would have a command vessel. I was lucky enough to spend some time aboard the HMS Queen Elizabeth, which is our brand new carrier. A couple of weeks ago, I went on to visit a friend over the weekend. We drank far too much alcohol, got a tour.
And now Badger gets assassinated.
And now Badger gets assassinated, or captured, and, but that was good fun.
But high five, right? So it's all good.
What would happen on a ship like that is you have the ship, and the ship works in and of itself, right? So you have its captain, its XO, you have its officers, you have its crew, and its launching plane. And then what you'll have is you'll have what they call an embarked battle staff. And this is the admiral. This is all of the people who are not dealing with the ship. They're not interfering with the ship's operation. They're running the fleet. And to me, that seems to be where they're going with the fleet command module. Because for most people, that's going to be exceptionally boring. And I don't imagine for a second it's going to need a battle staff. It might need one or two. What we're talking about here, for those that play EVE, for those that play World of Warcraft, this is your raid leader, this is your fleet commander, this is your shot caller.
And they did,
and they are
talk about
running
that.
The whole thing.
And they did talk about that, having those types of things on, a lot of the ships where you're looking at the group play, they talked about that. So
yes, what I really hope they do
had that.
What I really hope they do is so that go back to the 2012 Kickstarter video, the music kicks in, you walk onto the bridge as your character, and it's got that kind of 3D representation of the globe, which is that ship's situational awareness, right? Everything it can see. I love the idea that the fleet command module, when we get 3D, or sorry, the whole VR stuff integrated finally, they stopped doing it because they kept breaking it. So they're going to do it at the end. I love the idea that you could do some sort of Ender's Game style in VR, actually walk around the fleet. So you would become a detached camera and in your room walk around, and there you can see the Bengal, there you can see your javelins, you can see the opposing fleet coming at you. You can kind of walk around and use that massively enhanced situational awareness to inform your fleet and to direct everyone into winning, basically. But that's just my personal wet dream, and on that note, I shall yield.
No. It's.
But I've got the impression that the globe the big globe we've got in, say, the Carrack, the 890. We know the Idris has got it. We know the Javelin's got it. That it was always kind of seen as that kind of command control radar. That large ship situational awareness. And so any of the ships with that could actually function in that role. And I think that's one of the things that we've always got to remember. Ships might be designed specifically for a purpose, but it doesn't mean that's the only purpose it can ever do.
Yes.
The ships can all, the idea is that you can actually press a ship into any role you want. It may not be the best at it, but you can use it for that, because the idea is it's your ship. You use it how you want to use it. It's not. Some can't do mining because they don't have the equipment. But hey, if you've got hand mining, you can take an 890 mining if you want and do hand mining with it.
Can we all take a moment just to appreciate how hard X was trying to live out his Professor X fantasy then?
Yeah, I did see that. He was wanting to get the wheelchair. He really needed it.
He was trying hard.
I don't want StarCart racing. I want wheelchair racing. Let's do it.
Well,
I was doing that in a hospital. Woo!
Until we get motorized wheelchairs,
Hey! Don't tempt me with a good time.
There's a bar, or there used to be. It's closed now. There used to be in Singapore, in a place called Clark's Quay. There used to be a bar where all the seats were wheelchairs.
Oh wow!
And they used to bring your cocktails out to you on an IV stand in a drip bag, and at the bottom was a clip, so you used to drink it out of those. And they got shut down because everyone got really, really drunk and kept having wheelchair races up and down Clark's Quay, so they lost their license.
This is why you don't join the Navy. I mean, like, everyone in the military is stupid to some degree. We're all morons. The stories I could tell about Marines would just... Yeah, we're not going to go into that. We're going to keep this family appropriate. But, like, when it comes down to, like, alcohol consumption, maybe the U.S. Coast Guard beats a normal naval fleet. But, look, so put it this way. I'm in the Army, U.S. Army. I actually go to a Navy exchange to buy my alcohol because it is below market cost and it's rare. Like, really, I can get a handle, if those of you don't know what that is, that's 1.75 liters, a handle of good bourbon for $40. You know why?
It's cheap.
Because the Navy are all lushes. Like, drinkers, he can tell you, all the Navy, it's just a thing.
We're all what? What's the...
He said lushes.
What a lush!
So a lush is somebody that just, like, drinks for the sake of drinking.
Yes.
They're all alcoholics, is what
Can confirm.
Yeah.
No.
Not quite alcoholics, but yeah. I mean,
and worse, they're functioning alcoholics. Like,
there we go.
Yeah.
The battle alert can go off in a second, and they're like up and
yeah.
I call them soaps or sponges. They just absorb it, keep going. But...
All right, so back to the question. I was biting my lip, trying not to like interrupt anybody with that question. So two things. One, what if the upcoming ship that needs habitation work and other work is actually a command and control Carrack? Because I actually believe eventually we're going to have a variant of the Carrack that's command and control because it's perfectly built for it.
It's already
absolutely
got that sphere thing on it, so it's possible.
Yeah, it does have the sphere for radar control and stuff.
It has everything a command element would want, which is space, plenty of spaces for stations, a lot of power. It has that globe, the cartography section, a medical bay, which one of the things that drinkers can probably go on more than I could, but depending on the rank and the requirements, you're going to have a security detachment. You're going to have medical requirements for that vessel. So if an admiral is on a vessel, the requirements for the vessel are much higher than they are if it's just the captain.
And one of the things they talked about for the modules of the carrack was also additional crew quarters. So you could replace one of the cargo modules with crew quarters and increase your crew capacity.
Yeah, and a command and control ship doesn't need storage because it has a support fleet. It is basically nothing but a giant. The carrack is a giant sensor, and command and control need antennas and sensors. They need, a lot of big brain people staring at screens, very similar to what Badger's described. And so, the second thing I was going to bring up is that I've never been involved in naval special warfare or anything like that. I've worked with, like done training and all that kind of stuff, and combined joint task force stuff, done tons of that. But when it comes down to a JOC or a TOC, a tactical operations center or a joint operations center, you have very similar to what Badger's describing. The same thing that would be on a ship is actually located in a building. And that's going to be a thing. And that's going to be a thing that is going to be a huge... So will the gameplay be really deep? No. But it doesn't need to be because the players will make it deep. So therefore, even if it's pen and paper and then getting on Discord and figuring stuff out and moving people to different locations with pings, those org leaders, those tactical organizers within an org, they're going to be extremely valuable. So like if you're an org out there that really views yourself as like, we are going to control a sector of this system. You need to be picking up and bribing and recruiting your badgers. If you're going to be doing insertion operations, if you're going to be doing small unit tactics, if you're going to be doing stuff like where you're going to take a particular bunker that's very strategic, you need to be talking to people like me. There are people out there with that expertise that can just basically... Like if I went to Badgers right now and said, hey, I need to take this straight, even, though he's like currently not in, he would just be able to pull out that file and be like, okay, you're going to need this consideration. It's going to take you this many days. Let's break out a map. Like it's just this automatic, feeding mechanism that keeps people relevant. So anyways, I've gone on too long, but my whole point is, there's a ton of tactical play that doesn't involve systems. It involves people.
Mm-hmm. And I've got to say just here, thank you, Execute, for going on to the carrack and showing us the cartography lab with the ball.
I'd already pulled it out. It just was very convenient that you guys were talking about it.
I know. The only other ship I think we've got that really had that global available in-game at the moment is the 890 jump. I don't think I know of any other one that really got it.
600i.
The 600i does, yes, the touring version.
Something along those lines.
Wait, and the 400i has one.
And the 400 at the back, yeah. But is the 400i's really that, or is it just a smaller version? Like I know the Ghost also had it, didn't it? Like a very small, because that was supposed to be command and control. Was that the one that was command and control for the fighters?
It just has one on the main fighter thing. But this one's technically got two, because there's one here as well.
Yep. So that's probably more of a globe for command and control aspect rather than cartography.
Yeah. But you could it'd always be a module that converts the cartography one to just be a bigger version of this. So you could almost have that like a war room or something, and they could, like I was envisioning, like chairs around the outside where other people are sitting to help, and maybe a couple of consoles, up there. So like a war room bridge, or what'd they call it on the 890 jump? The war bridge? Is that what it was?
The battle bridge.
Battle bridge. There you go. Yeah. So like
it's real. I think it's a safe room.
Yes.
A safe room right next to the hangar, which I think is probably where you get breached from. But
kind of strange too that they added that to the 890 before any other ship, because battle bridges are a real thing. They are a like just a weird choice.
Yeah, it's a ship that's not meant to be going toe to toe, and yet they put it in the 890. But you don't see it on the Idris, and we don't see it on it. We certainly didn't hear about it on the Javelin. And the closer we get to a carrack is at the upstairs podium. But other ships just don't have it. It does seem weird. But I think that also lends into the idea that every ship, regardless of what it is, you can use it for. You can press it into service or something it's not meant to do, because it's just the way you play the game. So yeah.
So,
Let's go to the question.
Very quick one, I think. Sebastian says, are these Atlas vehicles and the Atlas variants potentially amphibious? I would say potentially. However, I could see, I'm not trying to be cynical, but I am being cynical, CIG wanting us to buy water vehicles if they tend to move stuff around the water.
I can remember them doing on the roadmap there was stuff for boats and stuff. So yeah, I can see them wanting us to do water vehicles and
also I can just imagine some horrific collision glitches where the front wheels of the Atlas touch the shore, and this thing just bounces 3 kilometers into space.
Swimming is on the road.
Back down.
Swimming is on the roadmap too, so maybe that new vehicle could be the very first amphibious one that's coming. It would be cool to see something like that, or even just a boat.
Yeah,
something like But maybe it's further away than.
Well, I know there was talk ages ago of the 890 being able to land in water, but whether that was fan-based stuff or CIG, I can't remember. But there was certainly talk along that.
So my 2 cents would be that any vehicle that's pressurized is amphibious. It just depends on how successful it can be.
Yeah.
It might become an unwilling anchor.
Yes.
So my question for you guys is, which ship is the VW? Which vehicle is the VW in Star Citizen? I'm just remembering that the VW, was basically.
Oh, you mean the camper van?
No, the little VW Mini. He
means the buggy.
What the hell
VW
are you
Beetle.
talking about?
VW Beetle is what.
The Beetle.
It's the freaking Aurora.
Beetle.
It's ugly and small and extremely practical.
That's not how you spell Grey Cat PTV.
Yeah, exactly. That was my thought too. That is literally inspiration for the PTVs, the VW Beetle.
I think it's a golf cart, man. I mean, I'm no expert, but I've seen a lot of people, especially in our great state of Florida, drive vehicles that look exactly like that around for hours, hitting very small balls pointlessly.
Yeah. The reason I ask is I remember that the Beetle was, watertight. It could float, and I can remember even seeing was it not Galactic Gears? Top Gear, where they actually converted their Beetle into. Actually, they converted various cars into floating boats, and with varying degrees of success. And but I do remember back in the day also seeing the Beetle having that, and I think in World War II the Germans even had a Kugelwagen, which is basically the Beetle.
Yeah, they did.
That was the Schwimmer wagon.
Moving swiftly on. I just think it's very brave that X has decided to take the character to go racing around the snake pit. That's a tough call.
It's very brave.
Yeah. Okay. Cascadian, I laugh at your question because this has been talked about more times than you would think in the back halls of Inforunners. Do you guys see a capital level amphibious combat ship being an option in the future? In other words, a big ship that's a staging base for dropships, tanks, and troops, etc. Mate, if we shorten our answer to this, it's only because we have absolutely done this to death, and I genuinely think this could be a podcast all in and of itself. I'm going to go very quickly. Yes.
Yep.
There is absolutely a gap for it. What you are talking about, in effect, is something that has an awful lot of vehicles, all parked up, a lot of beds for an embarked marine group, division, whatever. And is able to take something like a Hercules and drive the tank into the back of the Hercules without the Hercules having to go to the planet you're assaulting and then all the way back to a station and then all the way back again.
That
would be my two. But yes, something like that, absolutely.
No, Liberator. Like, not the Hercules, the Liberator. Like you and I had this conversation. So to everyone new to this conversation, I don't even know if we've done this on a stream or in an episode, but Badgers is right. We've spent literally probably dozens of hours debating this and trying to explain it to people, and Badgers and I especially, we know these ships exist. And really what you're talking about is a ship that holds, in my opinion, not Hercules, but Liberators, loaded up, that would go down, that would literally show up over a planet, unload a ton of Liberators from the bottom, and a ton being probably 3 only, and then a lot of support craft like Redeemers and bombers and air superiority vehicles from the top. So yes. I mean, short answer,
assault carriers and helicopter landing ships and those types of ships. And I know there are people who've said the Liberator is that, but the Liberator's not. It's too small. It doesn't have a crew space. It's really a ferry.
It doesn't have
paired with something bigger. You could use it as a landing craft.
I go back to that image you sent me, essay of the hovercraft.
Well, the ship that holds the hovercraft. Like I think I sent you a picture of a ship that holds a hovercraft in the front. And this is a real world ship, and in the back holds 3 landing craft.
Yeah, like
so,
it's that big
inside
aircraft.
the ship.
It's kind of like an aircraft carrier that had like a whole mouth on it, and is that the one?
And those are, and it carries a marine. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that the Canberra class helicopter landing ships that Australia got the 2 of them, I think they're like that. They are landing craft vehicles as well as helicopter ships.
Exactly that.
Right.
Yeah, and they act as a go-between. Right? They're not. They are more a logistics ship than they are a fighting platform. They're bringing, basically, as battle ready as you can, Marines, Marine aircraft, Marine fighting vehicles, Marine support vehicles, and they are providing you a platform
medical
where you can, where you can effectively transfer them to your landing stages and be brought onto the beach, down onto the planet in waves, and effectively. Sorry, go on.
I mean, I was just going to say at the moment that's the one thing we don't have. It's something that really fills that role. We've got ships that do aspects of it, but not one that does the whole lot.
Exactly.
Think of a Carrack that actually has 3 Liberators bays on the bottom of it, no internal hangar bays. And those are converted over to a medical bay, marine bay for berthing. The funny thing is the Carrack is actually the size and the design that you would want for a ship like that, which is kind of funny because the UE will never use it. And it's like, okay, so apparently we have to come up with something incredibly different that Anvil or RSI are going to design, or Aegis. But yeah, that's a real thing. And on top of that, and this is the conversation, I think, the episode was, what would it take for a Tonk platoon, maybe? Something like that. Yeah. But we had talked about landing in Idris, and Idris could be a landing craft for Tonks. It's possible. But the reality is there is this carrier missing that could basically come in hot and heavy, drop a ton of ships. And we've all seen it. I mean, it's not the same thing, but in Aliens, you have that basic type of, we are a ship that drops these drop ships to go down to surface. We're missing that. The Liberator isn't that.
So Fishy in chat asks, isn't this basically a Kraken? And I don't think so. No. I don't think it is.
No. So what your amphibious landing ship does is it contains the landing vessels. It doesn't do that itself. So the Kraken doesn't fit that for a whole bunch of reasons. It's got no way of transferring tanks outside. It needs to land itself and put itself at great risk to do so. If I wanted to kill a capital ship in atmosphere, you just EMP it, shut its engines down, and watch it kill itself.
100%. Like it'd be one torpedo from an Eclipse with an EMP charge.
Yeah. So you're talking things like it needs an awful lot of beds. So think from the perspective of your org is going to go and set up a base on a planet. You rock up, it's a contested area, so you could be attacked at any time. You start building up the base, but what you don't have initially is something where your people who are playing the ground side can log in. So if I go there in a Valkyrie, all of the Marines that are in that Valkyrie, where are they logging out? And the answer is they're going to end up back at a station somewhere. The Amphib ship would give space for all those, so all of those beds would be dedicated for your Marine.
And assigned. Like you could easily have a small app that could say, hey, your fire team, Alpha Charlie, your, fire team, Bravo Echo. Like there's the ability for management of an organization to say, hey, when you log in, you're going to be in a room with your fire team. You're going to know your team leader. You don't have to like go into some big bay, organize, blah, blah, blah. Like you can make a very streamlined, efficient, like birthing style of ship that allows you to basically walk out a door, walk down a hallway, your vehicle's right there. Like, or your ship is right there.
Exactly.
I could see the closest that we've got to that, or what seems to be the closest we've got to that, just in what it can do, is an Idris. And I wouldn't see an Idris, I wouldn't want to use an Idris in that role. But
it's
it
amazing.
has plenty of beds. It's got the hangar that can be used with a ramp, so it can be used for vehicles or ships. It's got the med bay, it's got the brig, it's got the other stuff, but even though it's as close to what we seem to be talking about, it still lacks so much, and you wouldn't want to be using it for that. It seems too big in terms of
in effect,
volume, and it has the same problem that the Kraken would have. One MP torpedo, and you're like an admiral of it, and
absolutely
goes and lands on
but
the first time.
The Idris shouldn't have landing gear. The space should be used for something else. I mean, so this is something that Badgers probably could explain better than I could, but you have a difference between shallow water port and deep water port ships. And we're talking about the same thing. Like the ability for a ship to land on planet should be extremely rare. And Idris and up shouldn't land on planet. Like even if they have the capability, they shouldn't.
Yeah, at that point we are talking, the ships that can land on planets are your shallow water ports. And we're saying an Idris really is a deep water port. It goes to the atmosphere. It goes to the planet, not onto the planet.
It's the borderline right now. So deep water ports, for those that don't know the value of them for both commercial shipping, by the way, and military purposes, are incredibly valuable for logistics. So the ability to put a very large vessel and have trade lanes to get the vessel there so that it can do whatever it needs to do and resupply, refuel, whatever it's going to be. These, you will see, even a deep water port is kind of misleading because you'll see the fueling point will be so far offshore that you can't even see it. I mean, Badgers could probably describe it better than I can, but like they're very rare. There's a certain number of them. Like I think the continent of Africa has an entire continent, second largest continent, has 2 of them currently.
Yeah.
Like they're extremely rare.
Yeah. The Pearl Harbor, watching Pearl Harbor as someone who was in the forces, that entire bombing scene, I'm talking about the actual film, not the 2 hours of crap love story at the beginning. I'm talking about the actual film, which was like the 45 minutes at the end. That is an absolute horror movie for people who go to see, because the strength of the ship is its ability to hide, bizarrely, even for big ships, because there's a lot of ocean out there for not a lot of steel comparatively. Its ability to maneuver, its ability to defend itself, all of which requires it to move and move freely. Just the damage you can do watching these things come into port. You could stand on a pavement somewhere watching this thing comes in with a couple of RPGs and do it some real damage.
We had
it's just the amount of damage you could do to that ship versus the expenditure you'd have to do damage when it comes close to land is ridiculous. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And just to give you an idea of how that plays out for the UK, our new carriers can only fit into 1 of our 3 military ports. That's it. And I think there are only about 4 or 5 ports around the UK, bearing in mind we're an island nation, that they can fit at all. So
the interesting thing to me with those pieces, and I think this goes to the larger Star Citizen, you have to make friends type of reality, is that the U.S. is in the same boat, right? We have more ports, but we all make agreements around the world. Like U.S. ships are allowed in deep water ports that Britain controls, and Britain ships are allowed in U.S. ports, and like there's a huge amount of coordination for that, because the ability to be able to refit and resupply and refuel and all these things are incredibly valuable. The biggest thing that I don't understand what CIG is doing when we're putting this into Star Citizen is they're talking about the Kraken as like, we go anywhere, we do anything. The Idris, we go anywhere, we do anything. The Javelin, we're big and we're tough and we're going to roll into anywhere we want to go. And logistically speaking, that's a no. Like, it isn't going to happen. You're not going to roll into Pyro with a Javelin and fucking dominate. People are just going to pick at you for months and months and months. You're going to run out of supplies, and then you're going to be a sitting duck.
Yeah, we do actually.
Even a flea can beat the.
We do actually talk about that a lot with ship ports and stuff like that, and the shipyards, and me and Algared recommend that a lot. Like if you have a capital, you really do need to take a crucible. You need to own a crucible, because if it's stuck, you're never going to get it out.
Network is
limited.
Well, and that's very limited repair. I mean, the Crucible, and Badgers, again, can speak to this, he's a Navy dude, but it can only repair so much of that ship.
But like, I mean, it'll get you going again, so you can at least get to the to the ship port. You can't even get there if you're broken down, can you? So you're gonna have to be either relying on someone with a Crucible to get you out, which they might not want to go into that dangerous area. But if you've got your own, then you can do it yourself, is my whole point. Like, I almost think it's almost a requirement for anyone that has a capital these days.
I mean, Badgers probably could give you a couple stories about this, but if you're adrift, I mean, if you've lost control of your vessel, I mean, it's game over if you're alone. I mean, that's just it.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they play out with spares and stuff, and whether or not, because they're talking about capital ships, and rightly so, you need to go to refit to change out key components. And just to give you an idea, the flywheel, so the last ship that I drove in the Navy was Illustrious, which is the last class of carriers that we had. The flywheel on that thing is 2 stories tall. And you can go and look that up, I'm not lying. Like, anyone knows what flywheels, anyone remotely into engineering and stuff like that, a 2-story tall flywheel is ridiculous. But the ship needs actually to be cut open to remove it. So if you have a problem with that, that is not it's okay, we'll just carry it down this corridor. No, you won't.
Yeah.
You're not lifting that thing out. Yes, exactly that. So yeah, anyway, I think, as you can see, we have gone really down into the weeds with this amphib conversation. I think,
and that's not even touching the, that's only doing the 10% of the top. That's only the bit you can see. There's...
I think what we would all agree, without any issue, is that if it was to be included in the game, it would absolutely be org play only. If you're buying it for anything else, you're nuts.
Well, that's interesting, because with the Javelin, when they built the Javelin, it was designed for specific org play. It was your raid ship for the massive raid, and the Javelin was the first ship that they actually said, and it has a hangar for a dropship. And I think at the moment that is the only ship we've got that's player owned that does have a hangar for specifically a dropship. So that kind of fits into that play as well. But again, it's like we said, you wouldn't want to be using the Javelin as your assault carrier, and it doesn't have it's only got room for 1 dropship, so it doesn't really.
And that's the key point, by the way. There's no such thing as a 1 dropship mission unless you're doing a sensitive insertion. Like, you're basically going in under low cover. You're going in dark, and you're basically trying to get Osama bin Laden or something like that. Like, that may work, but anything you've ever seen in movies where there's like three helicopters minimum, that's a real thing. Like, there's one in Overwatch.
Even bin Laden was 3 helicopters, even though they only needed 1. They still had 3.
100%. Yeah. And redundancy. You don't bring a ship like a Javelin all the way across like a freaking system to run a mission where your Redeemer gets shot down and you're dead. You have no more mission to run. You're doing search and rescue if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So even the Javelin, which is the only ship we've got with that capability, fails. because it doesn't have that redundancy. It's got one ship. It's got
because they're
one cargo. Yeah,
and this is a complaint that I've had with CIG from the beginning. They're doing things off of their knowledge of military tactics, not off of the experts or people that have had the experience. And it's not that I'm like criticizing their vision. I get the vision. Like, they don't want the game to be easy. They want the game to have complexity, but the design of their vessels is not designed off of what they think the vessel should be doing. What they should do is go to a designer and say, what are the three things these are the three things I want this vessel to do, or the 5 things, whatever it's going to be. And the designer says, okay, you need a minimum of this, medical this, number of pads, this, etc. And at that point, they can design whatever they want, but they don't do that. They design a ship and then say, okay, we're going to fix it after the fact.
Yes.
Can I just add to that, though, that they did say that they wanted this game to be World War II in space, so technically I think it kind of does need to be a little dated in a way, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, but even if you're looking at World War II in space, a landing craft, a ship that did landing craft didn't just do one landing craft, it had several. So my understanding is that it still doesn't work. I can understand them doing it, though, because you don't want you want your carrier to be different from your javelin. If you've got a javelin that can take 2 or 3 dropships, full well people are going to opt to put fighters in that javelin instead of their dropships, and they're going to use it as a carrier. And so I can understand why CIG don't do what is logical or seems logical, just because of that, wanting to differentiate how ships are used. And is it legitimate? Is it worthwhile? Those types of questions, I think, are ones that everyone will have to answer themselves.
I think we all need to go very quiet and watch X Parker's Carrick.
Shut up.
Yep. we have to make Execute answer questions while he's trying to land his carrot.
Yeah, this is one of the hardest ships to land, because if you've literally you've only got 2 meters. Yep. 2 meters.
No,
that's 1 meter either side. That's
you are
nothing.
Never parking my car for me, ever.
By the way,
so you spoke the paint work a little bit, but
So I think
it's the easiest question to ever answer that would take the least amount of time. Appreciate that.
Yes, we talk a lot about amphibs. Moving swiftly on.
Yep. So if you hadn't thought we talked about that, yes, we do.
The one thing I wanted to make clear, guys, is often SA and I, especially, we will drop into thinking military, and then we'll make statements like, if you don't have 3, it's a fail and stuff like that. And please bear in mind, we're talking from a military perspective. We are not trying for a second to suggest that you must bring 3 javelins or you must shoehorn 3 dropships sideways into your... that's not what we're doing. We talk from a military perspective, and, if that's helpful to you guys, then great. If it's not, then it isn't. But I think we've all been in a situation where we've taken one ship to something, the ship's died for whatever reason,
and you go, we really needed a second or a third as a backup. But
with our six in our hands, going, great, what do we do now?
And there'll be times I will say, well, they've probably done this for gameplay reasons or whatever, and we'll try and figure out why they did that.
Yeah, and anyway. And it is really trying to get that balance between what you'd see you'd need in real life for that job, and what makes sense from a gameplay perspective, so that it remains fun. And it is trying to balance that out all the time, isn't it?
Yeah. We're looking at it from a very low risk perspective. Like, we're looking at it, what does it take to achieve the mission with the least amount of casualties, which is not a game thing. It's a real world thing. So like when we make, at least speaking for myself, not Badgers necessarily, but like when I make those statements, it's about what would it take in a real world situation to be successful. And, it's a game. We don't need to hit that standard, but I like to be successful. So I'm going to hit that standard if I can help it.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. So you can see we've done the amphib stuff to death. More. We would love to do that. Probably if people wanted an episode dedicated to that, I'm sure we could do one. But
Or 3.
Moving quickly on, who
Who
says, and I think we're going back to the Spartan, and I'll link Darth Polvin and we can talk about it as a group. So who says, what about a Winnebago variant of the Anvil Spartan, like a space RV to live on the ground? And Darth Polvin asks, I could see a medical version, a supply, and merchant version.
Merchant version.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, didn't think of that one.
Yeah, that's unique.
Little tinker tail.
Selling stuff from the back of your
Little taco truck.
Okay.
Yeah. You know your taco truck, your Big Benny's.
Yeah.
I want a Spartan Kedron.
I'm thinking like from Django Unchained, the docks, like with the tooth on the spring on the top, driving along in your Spartan with that thing kind of, you know.
Sorry, I don't know how
open wide.
I don't know how popular they are in the States or England, but in Australia we often have the coffee trucks, the vans that are kitted out with full-on barista coffee sets. So
yeah,
coffee truck, not a Big Benny's truck or a pizza truck. We need a taco truck. We need
I want a caravan. I would play this. I would play this game, just have a caravan, and just literally drive around every planet in camp.
Isn't it the Mustang Beta?
Yeah, but
no. I want a vehicle. I want to experience the wilderness.
He wants a Winnebago. Take a year traveling all over, Hurston, and then go to Arkthorpe and do the same thing.
No, I want the Origin version of a Winnebago. I want the Kedron. Okay, we have 2 Australian guys here. Do you not know what a Kedron is?
Well, I don't.
An amazing caravan. Google it, look at it. They're made somewhere in your crazy ass country, but basically meant to go in the outback with luxury, all boat parts, amazing suspension. Yeah, just that's what I want. CIG, please either buy me a real Kedron or build one in game.
My parents at the moment, my mum and my stepdad, actually are in the States, and they're in a camper van, traveling across the States right now, and I can't think of anything worse. And I don't mean the States, I just mean the camper van. I don't know, that's just not me. That's just not me at all. Yeah.
That's hilarious, because that's what my family does for fun. We literally have a large van with a tent on top that we travel around and camping. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister and her family do the same type of thing. They go camping, but it's not camping, it's glamping. They've got all the mod cons with them, They don't have a proper coffee machine. It's not there. But yeah.
Algared. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
So this Dragonfly was actually referred to me. So I got one of the referral ones. This is one of the first referral things I've ever got. Came from Nooblitz or Steve. He is a YouTuber. He put my code in one of his videos, so I actually got a.
Oh, bless him.
Dragonfly. That was nice.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nooblitz.
So this is the first time I've been on it. So
one of these days I'll get some referral ships like that too.
But you don't think you need any more ships at all ever.
I tend to agree. Sadly, I agree.
If someone doesn't deserve a referral ship, it's you, Algared. Sorry.
Yeah.
But CIG,
everyone deserves referral ships.
Yeah, I think everyone does.
Any sort of non-combat ship, I think, or vehicle. It's we've got loads of combat. We've got a buttload of combat. Give us other stuff to do as well.
Sorry, is this door just meant to automatically open, or am I missing something?
No, you need to call out like normal.
Oh, like a plane.
Yep, you got to do ACT. Air traffic control.
There we go. Alright. I'm sitting here, why isn't this opening?
Yeah, one of the things that really drew me to the game were things like the Hull series and the Crucible and the Endeavour and...
Jeez Louise.
Because they were non-pew-pew. They were... that was their goal. They weren't geared to being fighters. They were geared to be anything but. And so any more of those types of ships we get, I think is always a good thing.
Yes.
You do almost need to drive your Dragonfly in third person, I think. First
It's
person.
definitely harder than low flying though, because I'm just waiting for a tree. I'm just gonna wrap
Oh, so
myself
I'm
around a
waiting for a
tree.
rock.
Yeah, or a rock. Yep, that's what's gonna happen.
Rocks
I see a lot of trees. I mean, hit anyone you want hit.
No.
Oh,
See, you
There
had
we
to
go.
jinx me, didn't you? That's right.
I mean,
Oh, you
can I
hit the
jinx
rock
you?
as well.
Joe, I feel upset and cheated that you survived that.
I feel I was expecting a bang, and he hit the rock straight after it, and he still didn't go bang. You know,
I think we
Dragonfly,
need a
OP,
fundraiser
please
where
enough.
like it's basically
it makes a mockery of the things that Drake is supposed to explode.
That should have killed me.
Yeah.
That should have killed me.
Nope. We definitely need a fundraiser where how long to X kills himself. I mean,
Yeah, like clearly, what they say about Drake ships is certainly not true of the Dragonfly.
Yeah.
So, Darth Polvin has a question. I think it's just a continuation of the previous, but he's like, let people get shot up in the high in the air for going for a ship above or to power drop, and of course there's a need for a recovery repair version, I think, and refuel or rearm. Yes to all of those things. I love the idea of like having the Robin Hood style trebuchet on the back and literally just catapulting people at ships. Maybe you'll hit the boarding collar, the docking collar.
Yeah, well, they did talk about that stupid idea as a
Caterpillar module.
caterpillar type module.
I still think it's a great idea. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah,
just
but-
launching people for
Yeah, that's
boarding
right.
that you'd never
Hilarious.
see them.
It's something you'd expect to see in a Monty Python skit rather than, you know.
Stripping dead security guards down to their undies and then super gluing them to the front of Can's Pisces is my new favourite hobby for when he's not looking. So he just jumps into the seat and there's some poor, security guard's buttocks staring at him in the face every time he tries to take off.
so I can't speak for the op, but like
it's evil.
Can't speak for the OP, but I definitely think this is more of a Firefly Serenity thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that type of tension. Yeah, that'd be cool. Like the weird, like I'm gonna jump, or what is it? Wasn't there a Star Trek movie with the new series of movies that had like the I'm gonna jump out of an airlock thing?
Yep.
Yeah,
that was the first one.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get it. I get where you're going. Like, I mean, I don't, but I do.
Got the one with the Australian security guy, the red shirt, who didn't open his chute until late and just sucked into the exhaust.
Yeah, he deserved that. Asshole. Okay. So,
I just thought
Fishy...
it was nice to see the red shirt just get, have the red shirt just so he can die. Just because that's what you expect.
Yes. Fishy2951 says, once the system is in-game, will we be able to participate in that one nearly lethal race with the acid planet, the hot planet, the ice planet, and the binary star?
Thank you for contacting EDL Landing
I don't see why not.
I mean, dude, you kill yourself any way you want to kill yourself. I'm down.
Look, eventually we'll be able to participate in the Murray Cup type race. With the different variants of that race, and that's got, some of the races that are in the Murray Cup are deadly, they're live fire, and others are around the cities. So yeah.
X, your driving makes me uncomfortable and/or feel sick.
Yeah, brother, if you want to have a foot race on lava, you do you, man. I'm good. I will watch and laugh and have a great time.
Zen Strata asks, what about F0 star racing with hover vehicles? Question.
And you thought I was bad. Look at this. This guy's ripped the whole side of his MSR off.
I think it's likely that if and Algared will be able to confirm this, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure that if CIG don't organise it themselves, players will do it for them.
Yeah. Well, one of the first.
I died?
You died on the ramp.
That's awesome.
Wait, how did you?
He entered the ship and got incapacitated. Do it.
And then immediately revived.
Yeah.
And then revived?
Yep.
What?
Don't sprint.
No, you didn't die. You fell down.
You fell down, but you've...
Oh, it knocked me out or something. It said incapacitated on the bottom left. So I thought I was dead.
Yeah, and then you were survived. Yeah, the cold was going to kill you in 18 minutes.
Okay. And then oh no, I was going to skip one. Blamsmith asks if they continue to encourage this kind of stuff while waiting for tech, i.e., the racing that we've seen today in ISC. Do they risk Stanton becoming the theme park of the verse? No, I'm sure they have a theme park planet planned.
And look, I just think those types of things in your convention centres, it just gives a venue for those convention centres when they're not being used for something else. And I could see them, like we said, doing one with a first-person shooter paintball type venue, a go-kart race, or there's a musical venue being put on, as whatever. It just gives value for those conference centres to be used for other things. So wherever you've got a conference centre, I'd expect them to be doing that type of stuff, and it just gives more things for players to do in that major city landing location.
Yeah.
So,
what I'm hoping we kind of see as things go on, and I'm sure CIG are going to do this anyway, is just generally an expansion around all the landing zones. So they'll expand into the landing zones. You'll be able to walk slightly further to the point where you can land in ArcCorp and spend hours exploring the area around it. And hopefully they do that not just through development, but through the life cycle of the game. They can always add into these areas because they've built such expansive landing zones. It would be a shame and frankly a little bit pointless if they didn't.
I mean, imagine ArcCorp if they took this tool that designed these roads and did whatever and put it from one landing location to another. I mean, we're talking an around the planet frickin' race down walkways. I mean, it'd be amazing. If they can do
a vehicle race on ArcCorp to different landing zones,
or a ship race. I mean, the whole canyon thing they just designed. Do that in ArcCorp. Please. I mean, yes, is it a little cartoony in a certain way? Yeah, but I mean, guess what? Our world is a little cartoony. We do this kind of thing all the time. Spartan races, mud race, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Retina Burner has a suggestion for you, X, and I think you already did this, but hey, may say, X, why not try out the snake pit?
Because I can't remember where it is. Can't remember where it is.
There you go. Can't remember where it is.
Where is it?
If you're still there, Retina Burner.
It's in Microtech. It's on one of the 2 planets in Microtech, I think.
Okay, we'll go do that now then.
It's the planet with only 2 outposts on it. Forget which one it is, but it's definitely one of those. So Blamsmith says if they continue to... Oh, sorry, no, I do apologise. We did that one. Sorry, Blamsmith, we did that one already. Bucketin, I see it. With all this talk about racing, I wonder if anyone has heard anything about Grim Hex racing. It's going to be an interesting one to balance that because of all the PvP.
They've talked about it a few times, haven't they? Having that racing centre there, but it's just never ever developed.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things that will come, but they do need to. It does need development, and part of it is that PvP aspect. I know that the last race that Echo designed for Southern Cross Alliance with the Crux Cup, the Apex race, Apex racing track is based around the asteroids of Grimhex, and it was designed as a live fire using distortion weapons, and it was actually a lot of fun. But oh, you've got a missile coming at you.
Why am I being shot?
Because you had a stolen ship.
Yeah, stolen ship, dude.
Oh wow.
I mean, you stole it, so yeah.
You boarded a ship and took it away, so yep.
So there'll be a slight pause whilst X brushes up on his mining before we go to the snake pit.
And then I'm going to fly all the way back to Microtech, so yeah.
And then you can't fly all the way back.
Yeah, we've got to get you back.
So, with Grim Hex Racing, and I think this will be a thing, I get them not wanting to put it in just instantly because there is so much unlawful, quote-unquote, griefing that could happen, but yeah, I mean, I want to see underground, freaking so I'm a huge Marvel fan for the movies. I'm a huge Marvel comic book person, DC comic book. I grew up with comic books. the Shang-Chi movie that like did the Macau thing with the fighting pit stuff. I would love that in Star Citizen. Like you got a pyro.
They've already got that in the prison. There's a boxing ring in prison, but they just never implemented it.
No. I mean like a primetime pirates put up their best guys like that. Remember the cinematic with Mark Hamill where the huge guy gets out and like walks around? That dude should be the champion of his pit. Like that should be a thing. And it's that depth thing, right? Like gameplay. It should be this guy's the best medic, this guy's the best nurse, this guy's the best this guy's the best that. Like, yeah, I would love for, and again, getting back to racing, but like, yeah, I want to see the best freaking Grim Hex cheater freaking scoundrel that couldn't pass any race in the UEE. Yeah, I want to see him, and I want to root for him.
Yeah, I do hope and expect they'll bring in the Grim Hex track soon. Sooner than later, but yeah.
Okie dokie. Brian Smith again asks, if IAE comes out before 3.18, will we get a 3.17.4? It's going to come out before 3.18, because I think we're looking to go live on 3.18. Well, they said they were looking to spend at least 3 months in testing / PTU.
Yeah, 3.18 was end of the year.
will be before then, so.
Yeah, 3.18 was end of the year, so yeah, probably 17.3. Yeah. Just like an incremental to turn on the event. Yeah, I can see that.
Okie dokie. Have Evo Karting got their hands on 3.18 already? Okay, bye.
Last I checked, we didn't, but they might have to have a look.
Okay, so Ace Hambone asks, what pieces will have to exist for a big mining operation? Orion, cargo hauling, security, etc.
It sounds like a what would it take episode.
It does.
Yep.
Yeah, I think...
The short answer is yes.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, definitely. That's it. Done. Sorted.
Yep.
We can go home now.
Yep. Lots of things is the answer. Lots of ships.
Lots of things. Yeah, and
lots of things, and we'll do an episode on what would it take for a mining operation.
High risk space versus low risk space. Yeah, plenty. We'll have a look at that. But yes, there's lots of questions to ask. So it will go into the realms of speculation land. So hopefully that's your thing. Okay.
That will certainly be a show in its own right, I think.
Yes. Sebastian asks, any chance of there being an Orion variant called the Onion, and what would it do? Gas processing. It would smell.
I think it'd be called the Ogre.
Okay.
Because they're like onions, and you have to unpeel them later of time. But yeah.
So your onion would be like a Terry's chocolate orange, only savoury.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
This one in the weird direction. Okay. In fact, as X is taking off, we can have a quick look. X can do a quick loop for posterity, but it says, what are you expecting from the Louisville Cityscape rework? Didn't we have that already? Hasn't that happened?
Yeah.
Question mark?
I know they're adding in more places, but no, I don't think it has happened yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were.
I thought
they were changing.
What the hell?
They certainly did with cloud tech.
Yes, they did.
The clouds are different around Louisville.
Interesting.
But I hadn't noticed anything major, but that could just be because I didn't pay attention. Oh, pardon me.
Sorry, I'm just removing a user.
Oh yes, that one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I could have sworn we'd had it already, but clearly not.
Report. Here you go.
Was it one of these things that got shunted? Can anyone help me out in chat? Well, I found her around on the...
What's wrong? What have you lost?
No, it was on the roadmap at one point, and it appears to have.
Oh right, yeah. I remember them
Swarmed off
actually.
something.
They actually talked about it on ISC as well. So yeah, but yeah, I don't think it's gone in yet. And again, like things on the roadmap changed, so maybe it's been put on the back burner. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it must have been yeeted out at the last minute.
Algared, your camera's all frozen, Algared. I just got.
Yes, I do see that. I've been told that I'm behind bars. I now see that because I couldn't see what they were talking about before because of the view we had. It's clearly an.
Yeah.
What I'd love to see, Bucky, is that the cityscape gets more of the new baggage, the new cabbage treatment. So not in terms of being spread out like that, but we get to interact with it more. There's so much of that. You know, no one flies anywhere near it because we all remember the horrors of the AI going, well, we're going to take your control of your autopilot and fly you away.
Oh, God, that was ghastly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they still do it now because like if you go too close to that big building, like I'll show you, it's still definitely here because like.
Yes. So I'm hoping maybe some landing pads within the city, maybe, maybe we can get closer to where the vehicles spawn at the gates on the exterior of the city, because still having to run 300, 400, 500 meters into one of those gates is ridiculous. It shouldn't be that close. We should be able to get as close as you can to the commons in New Cabbage. So, yeah, something like that.
Actually, I don't remember being able to fly through here, so this might be already in. If I can fly through here, I've never been able to fly through the building before. It might be in. Look at that. I've never been able to do that before.
Yeah, you used to get bounced off.
But that's different.
There you are then.
And the building's underneath the tower, that's new.
Yeah. So there's that. Ta-da, it's in. So it's pretty.
Already.
Can I land on this thing? Warning, restricted area.
You used to be able to land on the roof.
Whoa! That took control of me. That wasn't me. I don't know if you saw that. It took control and then crashed me. That wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Cool. Well, looks like I'm out for the count in terms of video, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Sensor Mass Gamer asks, next variant for the Spartan chassis, is it big enough to fit a single tier 3 medbed to give us a land-based ambulance?
That's what I'd like to see. And I know SA said that too, didn't you, bud?
Yep. And I would like to see that as well. I think anything where we do less combat, where it's more of a support type stuff, is worthwhile. And medical certainly supports a pew-pew. And so
Yes.
you can't always take a ship to the jump town, but you could have a vehicle that did medical, and that would be a bonus. So I could see that being very valuable.
Yeah. Yes. I think a tier 3 facility, possibly not a medbed, maybe something that takes a little bit longer to have the same effect. But yes, I'm not a fan of the medical stuff as it is. I think it needs a significant rework. But we know it's not in its final form anyway, so.
I didn't say it doesn't need a medical rework. I was just saying,
the thing is like, the 3 tiers we have at the moment are kind of pointless. In terms of, you might as well have 300 or 3000. X, you have a wonderfully flowing blue skirt there, my friend.
I was just thinking the physics are a little bit whacked because like you go both it should like travel in one direction. When you travel, it just balloons.
Yeah.
I think you should be, loudly, singing "The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music" as you do that, because that's what's
I
in
can
my
see
head.
that, but I was also thinking with that ballooning gown, it's very much Marilyn Monroe over the air vent type
Well, that's two different personalities interpreting the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, completely out there, but
So so I can get on my soapbox. Sorry. So I don't see the point in the 3 different tiers, because if they all require the same thing, why not just have one tier? If I treat tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 in exactly the same way, I understand that tier 1 slows you down a lot more, reduces your health a lot more than, say, a tier 3 injury on the same location does.
It won't be the same when it's all said and done.
No, exactly, and this is where we're going. I think tier 3 needs to be something you can fix on site without a med bed.
Like a tier 1 bed is going to be literally like vital organs. They're literally going to be opening up and doing like operations and stuff. And tier 3 is really just superficial stuff like cuts and scars and stuff. And then tier 2 is probably like a broken bone or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's one of the things that like Siege of Origin's shown this to me a couple times. A couple times I've picked up tier 3 head injuries in the first 5-10 minutes, say. Thanks CIG for magical stuff respawning behind me.
Yes.
But that to do that 5 to 10 minutes in, to then have to go through that entire event sounding like I'm running around in space because I can hardly hear stuff. And I know there's places you can go with the med beds, I get that, but if it's tier 2 then you're screwed. But that sort of stuff. But it's not just that, it blurs the screen, and it's like I seem to vaguely remember someone saying you shouldn't stare at a blurry screen for any length of time because eyesight and headaches. So to willingly put that in, and a good example of how you would fix this is a tier 3 on the leg in DayZ is a broken leg, so you splint it, and it stops you from sprinting, but you can still function, and then you've dealt with it and that for a while, and then after say 15-20 minutes it goes away. Your bone is effectively reknitted, and that's it. But we go back to the long range stuff. You're going to go with your friends. You're going to play for a weekend. Given the rule in time zones, this is in different time zones. This isn't unreasonable to think. We set aside time at a weekend. Right, I'm going to stay up most of the night to play with Algared and X, and we're going to go exploring in X's Carrack. And then 20 minutes into that,
one of us gets injured and we don't have a med bed.
Yeah, and the med bed's not working or whatever. It's like, bye, I say again. But you see what I mean. Yeah, so that. Okay. So moving on to the next thing. Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant with that. Sebastian asks...
We all go on rants at times, so that's okay.
Yeah. Sebastian asks, instead of requiring a separate fleet command ship, can that functionality just be implemented into a Javelin? Yes, Sebastian, that's exactly what they have planned. If you go and check the stretch goals, they have something called a fleet command module, which will go into an Idris or a Javelin and do precisely what you're talking about.
In fact, they even talked at one point of a module being able to be put into a Connie that did the same type of thing. But that was like 2014 that they were talking along those lines. And how much has changed since then, I don't know. But there are certain ships that do have that capability, and I expect most ships will be able to do that type of thing. But even if it's not the key thing that they're designed for, they'll be able to do it because it's enabling you to play the game the way you want, how you want.
Yes, in much the same way that the explorers, so all exploration ships will be able to find nodes, they'll all be able to jump point map, they'll all be able to do this. What CIG said when they were clearing up stuff between the Odyssey and the Carrack is the Carrack is going to get buffs to what it does with jump points because it has that equipment. Fleet command modules might give you extra abilities or make things much easier, but not having it is not going to stop you taking out a fleet of ships and leading them. Because, of course, there's always TeamSpeak, there's always Discord, there's always, all of those voice things that you can get into, and TeamSpeak's definitely something that you want to look at. And this goes beautifully into the next question by Ace Hambowman, who says, how will the command and control of a big operation handle the communications with other orgs and single players where there'll be so much continuous chatter?
Clear comms. It'll be just like any MMO raid where you got 30 or 40 people. I was on raids in some games where you had 2 raids of 30 or 40 people going through a job.
Yeah. So I think I used to play Arma 3 Milsim with the 77th JSOC. They have public service. I'll just shill for them for a second. They have public service. Go look. You don't need any mods or anything. And they're quite good fun if you like the Arma 3 stuff. They use TeamSpeak. When we were doing our private operations, we did TeamSpeak. And you would actually equip radios. So you would pick them up as items. And you'd have them in your backpack. Some of them were even backpack radios, which gave you more range. We would all sit in one TeamSpeak channel, but because we had this mod running, you would only hear people that were on the same radio as you, tuned to the same frequency, right? And then you pressed whatever, and you could listen to multiple radios. So you could tell it what ears to come out of. So I used to listen to 3. I used to listen to my squad comms. I used to listen to my platoon comms, and I used to listen to the convoy comms because I used to be a driver for my squad, right? My Delta. So I would have squad comms come in both ears. I would have that sounded rude. I would have convoy comms in my left ear, and I would have platoon comms in my right ear. So even if I didn't quite catch who said what, I knew which net it was on because of which ear I had it in. That's very complicated. What I'm hoping they do with this is, like a ship gets 10 comms channels, right? So one of your panels will be a comms channel. When you go to your comms, and it's internal comms, so you've got your external, you've got your internal, and it gives you 10 channels. You can rename it, right? Rename it whatever you want. And then you can A, select which ones you want to listen to. And then B, you can select the priority of them. So if you're listening to something that's priority 3 on your list, and someone talks on priority 2, priority 3 cuts out, and you hear what is said on priority 2. And you literally do that through ticks. Which one do you want to listen to? This one, this one, this one, this one. And then you drag and drop them into priority. So although it sounds complicated, it would be a really easy way of implementing it. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, just watch this scan when I ping. Like, it does the station, and then watch, it actually hits the planet.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah. So... Yeah, so... No, this is exactly that, Zen, is that when you're giving people... Because whatever comm system they're implementing has to work for both the casual gamer and the org who want to organize stuff, right? So using something like your ship is a hammerhead. It gets 10 channels, right? So when you all go in, you all go to channel 1 by default. You don't need to rename it. You don't need to do anything. So just like now, we run in and it's like, great, we can all talk. We're all talking. We're all having a laugh on the hammerhead. You know, and like Algared says, when something serious goes on, someone goes, shut up, guys, a second, there's something coming at us. Everyone concentrates, we destroy it, and then we go back to, talking crap on God. The exact same system could be used for people go, do you know what, let's have our general chat system thing, but turrets, you all need to join a channel, so join channel 2. And engineers and damage control guys, you're going to join channel 3, because when you need to talk to each other, the entire ship doesn't need to hear that, just the people that it's relevant to. And by just giving us 10 channels and go, you rename it, you drag and drop it, you choose which ones you want to listen to or not, it's great, because you automatically join one channel when you learn. When you join it, that's your casual gamers covered. And then you get to play with, as many channels as you want. if you want to get involved with it. You don't have to. It's fine. And that's why we talk about the armor stuff. The armor stuff got complicated. It is a reflection of military, so it's a milsim thing, so we were all happy to do it. You'd be amazed at how many ex-military guys play Armor 3. It is pants for all the reasons you are saying, the AI being able to laser you through trees and bushes and, through glass and apparently through solid ground as well. Entirely that, right? You were entirely correct. I'm taking nothing away from you there. But there are ways to do it, and you are entirely right, Ace Hambone, in the question. Take an Idris, for example. Does everyone on the Idris need to hear the Gladiuses that are coming back to land saying to the dude on the flight deck, "We're coming into land, can you open the hangar bay doors? And also, I've got a problem with my wing, and my wingman's got a problem with his computer. His comms have gone down, so we're going to need new comms. Does everyone on the ship need to hear that? No. Does everyone on the ship need to hear people just chatting on if they're trying to fix something? What spares do you need? What part of this is broken? I need you to get me a... You could do that over a general channel. But just giving players the option, giving them a system and going, it's really easy to use, make it as complicated as you want. That would be the best way around the comps thing, I think. I'm not even going to start on how this is dealt with in real life. It is hella confusing. It is far beyond the needs of a game. Yeah, absolutely. It would be lovely and fun to work it out that way, because what you have by the game controlling it is, wouldn't it be cool if you could put in interference? Because of range, struggling to communicate with a ship the other side of a sun. And yes, people are always going to game their way around that with Discord and TeamSpeak and phones and everything else.
Yeah, I got the impression that was certainly what CIG intended or hoped would be the case with using Spectrum. But
yes,
yeah. No, I've actually just noticed in Twitch that, well, I've known for a long time, Pappy Boyington is in there. So, hey, Pappy, lovely to have you. And I know you've got a question down there, which is actually what I saw as your questions popped up on our stream. So, we will eventually get to it. And if we don't get to it yet, we will eventually make an answer sheet or whatever. But before we go to the next question, I just thought I'd point out that we do have YouTube members, and a couple of them, 3 of our members are actually been members with us for 2 months now, which is, I think, pretty much when we started. So we've got Shiggy7, Simon Wolf, and Nosy Mile, who have reached their 2-month goal. So thank you guys for being with us for 2 months. That's huge. Blows us away when we think of that. But and I did think one of the things we say we'll do is mention you guys in chat occasionally, so I'm mentioning you. But it really does. I don't know about Execute and the others, but we are always staggered by the amount of support we do get in terms of finances and other things from people who just want to support us. And so thank you so much for your YouTube membership. Okay, back to the question. That was a community service announcement.
by old man Heston. Okie dokie. Did anyone else want to weigh in on the comms question, or did I slaughter that enough for all of us?
No, you've slaughtered it. You've answered it in spades. So
it's great. I will shut up for the next couple of questions to allow other people to talk. Cool. So, Fishy2951 says, "What if the variant is a data running Karak with E-War capability?"
Yeah, that's kind of along the lines of that manta ray thing we talked about earlier.
Yeah, the drone control / E-War theory / yep, and we know that type of stuff's coming as well, that E-War-y aspect of the game. So yeah, why not?
Well, the only one we've kind of got that's really super evil for it at the moment is the Sentinel, but you got to expect that there's other ships on the cutting block, like sorry, on the creative side, just how big they want to go with it. It's kind of like we said about bounty hunting too. Like, there's these smaller variants, but where are these bigger ones? You got to assume that gameplay goes up the chain. But yeah, there's just a lot of gaps at the moment. Like, you saw us do that episode on the industrial ships and showing you what ones are missing. You could very much do the same for any profession, work out what ships are missing. And again, if you look at E-Warfare, you've pretty much only got the Sentinel, you know, so you've at least got another potentially 3 ships there, realistically.
Yep.
Badges, all I can do here is you typing.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I'm just responding to a question further down. That was to clarify it. Okay, so yes, data running Carrack, E-War abilities, absolutely. CRG are going to need to do something clever with data to make E-War abilities more than a gimmick.
Yep.
And, you know, make things more than just hackable, you know, interferable, jamming, all that sort of stuff. Spoofing. They're all terms in the military that SA will be very familiar with as well.
And there's a significant amount of gameplay they could put in with that. Yeah. They could make it as complex or as simple as they want.
I would challenge that only to say runner or collector. There are 2 different categories there.
The question, sorry, Fishy's question was, what if the variant that was talked about in the news, in their update, was a data running Carrack with E-War abilities?
E-War and collector, yes. Runner, no.
Anything's possible. Like, that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of variants you can chuck out there, but I do think you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but the marketing seems to have a lot more of effect on the ships these days, and I think they're doing less variants and more individual ships. They may roll them into variants at a later date. That's what we're hoping. Like, so when we were talking about the Centurion and stuff like that, is down the line they will just become modules of each other and actually be variants and stuff like that. But for sale purposes, getting you to buy a whole Centurion and a whole Spartan is a lot more profitable for them. So that's why we know they're moving away from that stuff. But I would expect, rather than a variant of the Carrack, for sale purposes, it would be a whole different ship. But at the end, they may come back, and as you know, there are modules on the Carrack, so there may be a variant that is some form of EMP variant or hacking, or the ones you've listed. So yeah, it can go all over the shop, and that's the. It's almost like trying to predict the wind at this point. It's
it's one of those things that's a bit hard to do.
Yeah. Next question, please.
Okie dokie. Crystal King H asks, what would you like to see from submarines in game and submersible gameplay?
I think just like underwater stuff that would be kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It is kind of like space in a way underwater, except you just got the pressure stuff, and I don't know. Like you could even have like an underwater, you know how like Lost City of Atlantis type stuff. So you could actually have an underwater civilization that was submerged long ago. So an exploration element to it. You know, lots of different places that can be taken.
Water critters that will munch your ship if you're not careful.
Yep. You know, an actual kraken.
Yeah,
you know?
A real live kraken. Kraken owners will want the skull of a kraken just at the front of their ship, just so they could, you know.
Yeah, alien sea monsters, you know, all that type of stuff. You go anywhere with it, you know. So
I think much like caves, where I think we're likely to see work on that happen.
Yeah.
When they reach more tech blockers.
You could have an actual profession that's like an underwater farming, you know, like sea kelp, like some kind of alien kelp that, you know, is like really valuable, and they use it in medical or whatever. So they could actually expand gameplay of certain professions to underwater.
Well, we do have a couple of water planets as well, so
underwater mining, and if you don't do it right, there's an environmental hazard. You know, like I think of a whole bunch of stuff. Just play that through, just like real life. You know. Yeah.
Yep. So lots of options there.
Yeah, heaps. That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
That one.
Ian Wilson 4286 asks, "Is it just me, or is ISC getting shorter with less info?"
I think it really depends on the episode, and this week did feel like a filler. And I even said that to Algared, didn't I? Before we went live, I said that's a filler.
Even before we got on, he saw the title and said, "This is a filler."
Yeah.
But was it nice to hear about the snake pit? Yeah, it was nice to hear it being done. It was nice to hear about the buggy races or the kart races they're doing. So
yes, I don't want to take anything away from the message that they're sending, which is we're listening. It might not mean that they get to act every time. There might be blockers to it, monetarily, engine wise, whatever, but they are listening. You know, and where they can, they're obviously doing their best to.
It's just a bit
to accommodate what we're doing in the game.
It's like you
but
said,
the other thing that came out,
it's a good message. It's just that we actually want information, and that's one of the main place they disseminate the information. But when there's so few episodes already, they take 5 months of the year off, and they do filler episodes. There shouldn't be filler episodes. That should have been, you know, maybe 3 minutes at the end of an episode type of thing. But you know, I don't make those calls, so. Not my choice.
No.
But the other thing was, at least with Snake Pit, that was done the type of thing that was done in free time. And initially, you know, so the fact that they're encouraged to do that type of stuff, and the fact they like doing that stuff because it keeps them honed in terms of their craft. The fact that they're encouraged to actually engage with the community, and I think that's both a blessing and a curse, because they can get burned by that. By the vitriol that sometimes comes from the community, just because of their enthusiasm, not necessarily because of their hatred of the game, but that can come across quite negatively at times.
I think, you know, Ian's got a really good point there, and it's when you look at the amount of money that goes in from the subscribers, which we were initially pitched that would go towards this sort of stuff, there is more than enough money. Like I know it's more than this, but I can say for a fact it's surpassed 3 million.
Yeah, 2018 they made over 3 million, and so that would have gone up and up and up for subscriptions. And there is no way. I'm sorry, I don't care. Don't take this as an insult. It's not meant as an insult, but there is no way that is $3 million worth of content.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and there are video editors who would literally rip their arm off at the elbow. If they set a challenge, you know, edit us 3 videos about Star Citizen, whatever.
And the fact that...
Go.
I think he... Oh, still there? Yeah, I thought I heard your microphone break up. That's right, keep going.
You know, the fact that they could... 3 videos as their job interview. They've got more than enough money there to pay for full-time editors to be turning this stuff out. I think it doesn't necessarily need. I think
I think it's a clear indication, though. It's not the video, right? We can all say it's not the video. It's that they have a lack of content they want to share. That's it. At the end of the day, that's the only logical conclusion.
I think there's also an aspect where it's the staff themselves may not always have the time to do that. And I know that sounds a catch-22, that they're encouraged to engage with the community and they don't have time to do the video. But there are times when you're trying to do you're trying to work on a project and you get pulled off to do a video. That kind of that can have an impact. But I tend to agree.
What type of videos are you doing that you get? I'm sorry.
There is that level.
Someone else will get that joke. That's fine. That's all right.
There is that level where there is that lack of content in terms of that, and it doesn't feel like the videos we're getting match up with subscription subscriptions. But we do know videos take a long time to make.
Yes.
We do know, you know. And so, but as you said, there are people who you could employ on that round to make more content, even if it was just showing more gameplay or showing more this or showing more that. And then or even a gameplay where they then give a commentary on the gameplay of what they're doing, what they're seeing, what they're doing, and how they're hoping to change, or what's going to change in the future. But yeah, it'd be nice to see more in terms of that. But we still get a lot of info. Like the monthly reports are always so heavily jammed with information.
I wonder how much that's got to do with Ben, though. Ben Lesnick.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, because I think things like where they talk about the animations and stuff, they could just show us grey box stuff of that, you know, and do it in exactly that format. But that I would find riveting. You know, to show us those behaviours and you know, they talked about having citizens have a conversation between, so they would eat a bite of their meal and then they would say something and then the other one would say something while they were eating, and just show us that happening. Just, you know.
Actually, do you remember, I remember the one I always gave was a really good example. They showed them like how they worked with people to do the animations for the aircraft taking off and landing on the Idris for Squadron 42. They very rarely show stuff for Squadron 42, and that's a really great example of something that you can show that has no effect on the storyline. And I'm sure there's things that they could actually show. They even said, like, I always forget the guy's name, the guy that's the head of Frankfurt with the fancy hair. He always
Chambers.
Yeah, Brian Chambers. He used to always say, "Oh, we want to show more of Squadron 42," but that never eventuated. Do you remember that? Like, they talked about that a couple of years ago. They go, "Oh yeah, we're going to show more now," and it went nowhere.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to do things like showing more of the interaction. You know, the way when they did the things at when they were doing the nav mission, showing how the AI was taking past around obstacles or getting their meals and sitting down at tables. It'd be nice to see more of that. It'd be nice to see the advance of the just mundane conversations they have. But yeah.
Alright, next question, please.
Next question. Yep.
Tricky. There's a Sangroper at WA 6000 says, will we see an off-road racetrack shortly after the next patch, or is this new focus on racetracks make work jobs for devs who are waiting on other teams?
What, the last part?
Thank you, and please visit again.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a focus. I think it's just happened this time around. They've obviously gone, right, we can do something for the racing guy, so let's do something with the racing guy. And then that
venues aren't being used all the time, so let's
we could do that in there as well. But yes, hopefully, you know, someone, I think Zen in chat was saying, in fact, it might have been Crystal King. There you go, it was Crystal King. Said, I like the fact that they only need a few devs to make cool locations. That's what I learned. You know, 3 weeks, I think, for the indoor racetracks.
That's what all the tools are about, you know? Like, it just shows you how well those tools are polished now, and, you know, you take that from the racetrack and apply that to building out all the pyro or the next system after that, etc., etc. You can see it's not, you know, what'd they get it down to? It was less than 2 months with 3 people to rebuild all of Stanton. So you can see very quickly we're not going to be waiting for. You get all these people go, oh, it's going to take 10 years, you know, like, and then you hear things like, oh, they've got all these big ships to build and blah blah blah, and that's going to take 10 years. It's like no, because they'll bring at the moment they've only got a small amount of people in Manchester actually working on the ships, you know, so they actually bring in all those new people into the new Manchester's office. So they're looking at doubling, you know, going from 750 to 1400. You know, if they chuck 100 people at ships, you know what I mean? Like, it's like 1 or 2 years for all of them.
Yes.
Yeah. As the tools have developed, they certainly have got faster, and the tools are getting better and better. And it's not that they say, oh, we've got this tool now, we're finished with it. The guys who have made the tools are constantly, you know, go back and they think of something new and they polish it up and they put it in. So, yeah.
Even last week's ISC, that guy talking about the building of rivers and stuff, you can see how he's improved his tool and stuff like that. They're all working on improving constantly.
That's exactly what I was actually referring to. Just in terms of that, you just saw that tool. He'd made it before, and he's enhanced it. He's improved it. And he's got plans to improve it even more. So
great minds to work.
Tools never did have that.
Ian Wilson 4286, regarding your military experience, mate. Hit me up in Discord. Come and have a chat. We'll talk about it. Kishkin asks, when Pyro comes out and we start getting more survival mechanics, limited resources besides the Carrack, what ship do you see as being the most adaptable, survivable for being in the black?
Oh, that's a loaded question, but the MSR does have a lot of extra fuel over some of the other daily drivers, so it might be able to go a little further. But yeah,
I'm hoping we move away from the over reliance on med beds at the moment in ships. But you know, Corsair, Odyssey, they'll all be pretty robust out there.
I was going to say the Odyssey, just because it can harvest fuel for itself, so that'll give it a longevity in that aspect. But it's just not fuel that they need. Ships are going to need fuel, oxygen, food, supplies. And so anything that can carry that type of stuff will benefit. So
absolutely. I think the guys have covered it. I'm not really giving it much thought. I'll have to think about that.
Okay. He has a question for us.
Look, he does. Oh, it's a maths question. Oh, don't ask me to math it. 7 minutes.
4 million. Okay, I'll do this one since you don't like these questions. With 4 million accounts and 95 systems, even if 50% are active alt accounts, that's still 21,000 players per system. If they were balanced, do you think we will end up with a single shard?
Thank you. And please visit again.
No.
I think we're beyond a single shard purely in play number terms. Like, there's way more people. Like, this game's grown radically beyond the scope of the original Kickstarter vision, and that may have been the case back then, but just there's too many people now, and I think at the very least you've got 3 shards, because you've got like United States, Europe, and Australia servers right now, and I think it's very much on par with that.
I think I can recall Tony Zerevic talking about shards and the origin of shards being with
sorry, very quickly, just to cut in. Retina bonuses. Snake Pit is on Clio near the Ryari McGrath station.
That's what I was trying to ask. Thank you, Clio.
Yeah, no worries. And apparently, if you go straight to it, you'll just see it from where you end up.
What did you say? What McGrath station?
So Ryari McGrath.
Ryari McGrath. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, Algared.
So yeah, I think I can recall Tony Zerevic talking about the origin of shards and the idea of shards were, and based on even what he said, we wouldn't have a single shard, but have lots of multiple aspects of things. So yeah, I don't think we'll end up with a single shard at all.
I think it's I mean, just from the certain things that CIG cannot engineer us out of, ping is one. Like, there's no engineering your way around ping. So
it's pure physics.
You know, it's just the speed of light, speed of whatever. So you're just not going to get over ping. So I think you're going to have regions just like any other game. You will, like now, be able to hop between them, but you know, no one wants to. I mean, ask X about this. He knows better than most, and those that live in Australia do. Because they're always selecting regions that are far away from them, and the ping is never the best. I think. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, me and SA sometimes play Hunt Showdown, which is, if anyone knows, it's a Crytek engine game, which is what Star Citizen is based on. And the best I can get when I play with SA is a ping of just under 200. So basically, when I fire my gun in that game, it'll take 2 seconds to go to the server and come back. So, for example, when I play on the United States servers, I only use long-range weapons, because if I use a shotgun and me and the opponent are sitting there, I will fire it maybe at the same time he does, but he will kill me because his bounce to the server and back, it goes, oh, he killed you first. Because mine takes a whole second to get there, and then a second to come back to me to register. So you just don't use short-range weapons. So there are ways you can play around it, but in a game like Star Citizen, I think in the ships it may be okay, because let's be honest, like we do, like right now I'm playing on a European server, right? It's kind of fine. But when we start to get onto that on-foot stuff and the first-person shooter stuff, that's where you're going to notice it a lot more. So it's kind of friendly right now with certain things, not so friendly with those. Yeah. Okay, so where the hell am I going from here?
So
that's where I just had the. All right. Oh, there it
down
is.
on your left. Right. Yeah. You know, look, the best case scenario is what they talk about. You know, they talk about situational awareness. If you're in a crowd, you're in the middle of a crowd, you are only aware of people in your immediate vicinity. You're not aware of what everyone in the 80,000 person crowd is doing. And, you know, there'll be so many that you don't ever see, you don't look at, you don't... And that's what they're hoping to achieve with dynamic server meshing, is they will spawn in what is in your immediate vicinity and further out depending on the capabilities of the system. That's the best case scenario. That's what they're gunning for. At the worst case scenario, it will be something like World of Warcraft, where there are loads of independent shards. Pickleskin says he's heard of shards. I too can confirm, went to India. Shards are real. The danger is real. They're not the same thing, however.
Where are these landing? Oh, wait.
If anyone's going, what on earth are you talking about with shards? That's what World of Warcraft is. All the different servers named silly things like, you know, Silver Moon and Blade Fist and all that sort of stuff. They are shards. Copies of the same universe. What PES will do is will copy across all of them so it's all standard. So if I'm on one shard and let's use Chris's big thing, I leave my coffee cup in the middle of the woods and I go to another shard, in theory it should still be there.
Yeah.
Because it's copied across, and that's what persistent entity stream is going to be. So we know we're going to get, no matter what shard we go to, everything should be the same for us. Right.
Now, I've got a cut in. I've just got a cut in here. Sorry, Badgers. Yeah. Just seeing Execute get out of a ship there.
Right.
The Mustang is bloody huge when you consider it.
Yeah.
Just that third person of him getting out, he was minute compared to the Mustang. And yet the Mustang is one of our small ships. So, sorry, I just had to say that.
No worries.
Back to you.
So that's what they're hoping for, is that, you know, no matter what shard you'll go onto, you'll have whatever you've done on any other shard will copy across. At that point, you'll only be able to interact with the players that are on your shard, right? And hopefully we'll get something like we have now, where there's a player cap, but there's a soft cap, and then the hard cap is, you know, your players or your friends are on a server that are at the soft cap, but you can still join because they're your friends and they've invited you to a party. So hopefully we get something along those lines, right? Did you just kiss that?
You just got in your ship, that's all.
Man, this is actually a lot. Like, I thought people were going real fast here, but it's actually, I'm having to go real slow. Is this... Wow, okay. Now I'm understanding the difficulty. Other people have made this look really easy.
Yeah, but it's like we've said before, you know, the people who do this all the time, they do become really good. And they will snot anyone who's not really doing it all the time. You know, that's where casual racers are going to get snotted by the professional racers.
Yeah.
Every professional we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Lookout, because people need to temper their expectations. Yeah, sorry, I was the word. Like I said, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here. I'm beginning to lose brain function.
Yep.
It is a really important question, because that's what they're aiming for, but there's no guarantee that they'll deliver, and that's why, getting on my soapbox again, this is taking so long. They know what they want to achieve, they don't know how to get there, because there's so much of this game is being developed out of the blue, right? So much of it is an R&D project. It's like, you know, now I want you to go and build a full house from scratch. I know you've never done it before. How long is it going to take? You tell me when it's complete, and then you watch everyone bitch when you miss the deadline about, oh my god, you're shit at this, you don't know what you're doing. It's that sort of stuff, right? So they're gonna get as close to that as they can. Is it going to be everyone on one shard? Definitely not. Is it going to be everyone on one shard for each region? I doubt it. I very much doubt it. There's just too much. I still don't.
It'll depend on the region too. Like Australia might be one, but you know, Europe and United States are a much bigger population. So, yeah, population's going to be a part of it. They're going to want you to feel like the universe is lived in. So they're going to, again, Australia being a smaller population, it might be one shard because we just don't have the people here. You know.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. Over time, they're going to spin up other servers. They'll pop up a server somewhere in. I'm just going to throw ones out there. You feel free to shoot me down, but like, you know, they might have a Chinese server pop up. You know, they might get a second European server. They might end up having a server on the West Coast and the East Coast of America, things like that.
This is the beauty of switching over to the lumberyard and having Amazon Web Services. They can do it wherever Amazon have a server farm.
That's it.
I know from an Australian point of view that different shards certainly helps us because just, you know, if I'm playing on an Australian server, the ping is so much better than if I'm playing on a US server.
Yeah.
So, and as we know, ping is the thing we can't work around.
I clenched for you there, X. I was like, ugh.
No, I went to turn and it clipped the edge of the hill and stopped me from turning, and then because I was going so fast, it almost went into the cliff. It's actually
from my angle, it didn't look like you clipped the hill. It just looked like you did a really nifty spin.
I'll tell you what, it really has given me appreciation for like because I've been watching like Evolve Gaming and a few of the others like the Aussie guys do this, and look, they make it look easy as hell, and it's actually
is that anywhere
really
near as fun as it looks?
It's tense.
It's more difficult
because
than
I'm not a racer, so this is definitely more tense for me than fun. But I could see why people would be getting the fun out of it. Let's put it that way. Because I'm not going half the speed that they would be going. Look, I'm only going about 100 here, and it's still quite difficult. Oh shit! Especially when there's dead end and you go the wrong way. Where to? This way.
Imagine flying full speed and going to that dead end.
Yeah, a lot of people have been using the melon. Oh, say again.
Sandgroper has a question. Sort of a follow-up to planetary nav mesh and racing, and it kind of links in with what you're doing at the moment.
No!
How long until we see player versus AI ground racing on the Mars and planets?
Well, I'm not dead.
I feel sick just watching that.
I'm starting to get...
Eject. Yeah, you're going to drill a hole to the other side of the planet if you keep that up. Oh, he's blacking out. Oh, you're going to have to eject, man. Eject!
Go the other way. Roll the other way. It might help.
Talk to me, Goose. Talk to me. Ah, you're right.
You got out of a death spiral.
Oh, shit.
Oh. No, put yourself back in it.
You've got no control.
I can't move. Gets faster and faster if I try to control it.
Mate, I know what you need to call your Mustang. The Vomit Comet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh dear, that's
so what do you reckon
terrific.
about nav mesh and AI versus players in racing?
Yeah. I think it opens up the door for all sorts of exciting.
That's why you're spinning, by the way.
No, because
ground convoys.
Yeah, well, I turned the engines off, so when it landed, it cut the other wing off. But it's just a coffin now. The Consolidated Outland coffin.
Yeah.
Yep. So sorry to cut on Sandgroper's question. AI and racing.
Yeah. So sorry. So racing and ground convoys, interceptions, complete counterattacks, nomadic tribes, all sorts of stuff. There's so much it opens up the door to.
Did you see
so
that?
Yes, all of it.
Did you see that?
You didn't. You didn't die.
No, but
You
like
didn't die.
it opened the door lifted the ship up, and then I fell out, and then the ship fell back to the ground and exploded. Oh,
I
dear.
feel like it. We've just
And
seen
you
one of
didn't
those.
die, but you got 30 minutes to survive to get to a
You know,
shelter.
it's like like Grand Theft Auto when they get out of a car and it just spazzes out, and the player goes, bounces off a couple of things and then just gets flung across the road to be run over by a truck. I feel like we've just seen the first Star Citizen one of those.
And now we just got to wait for the truck to come and get him.
Yeah, you're being called the last action hero ARX in chat.
There we go.
There you go.
People are liking that.
What's it called? Port Tresley.
Okay. So, did you want anything or have anything to add for Navmatch?
Yeah, go on.
Algared? Go on,
Okay.
Algared.
Well, extra thinking. Look, I'm looking forward to the nav mesh. I think, as you said, it really does open up the world for the AI to interact. And once they've got the racetracks in, and once it, you can already do Mario Kart against the AI. So why not have Mario Kart or kart racing against AI as well? Why not be able to do Snake Pit against the IA, because they're actually established racetracks that CIG have put in. So having those things, but the options are there. So yeah.
X, it's been saying you should be able to run to the Ryari outpost. It's only about 36 kilometers away from here.
Let's go.
Don't know in what direction though, mate.
Yeah, don't know the direction though.
No. Okay.
Light problem when you don't have a
Can't even get out of the bloody gully.
Fishy2951 says, why is it that for every major added thing, Louisville always seems to be the last and take the longest?
Well, I think I've got the answer. But it's because we like to put our funds back into our community rather than just building new buildings for having buildings set. And then there's always that profit margin you've always got to worry about. And then the investors. And so we take our time building things. Thank you, old man Hurston.
How many questions do we have left?
We are
6 or 7
into the last, into the last 7, 8.
Let's get on with it then, because we've just hit the 3 hour mark. So I do want to start to wrap this up if we can.
Awesome.
My belly is grumbling.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to second guess an answer from Oldham and Hurston, so I think we're good on that one.
Yeah.
Beeves channel.
Apart from old man Hurston's guess, that's about all we can do. So yeah.
Beeves channel says, do you think the Perseus will be a part of Squadron 42 and may go into production soon, especially with the different ballistic ammo types being worked on? It would be a great testbed for them.
No, it won't be a part of Squadron 42.
No.
Those ships were all finished. Oh man, Algared, when was that? It was years ago now, wasn't it? I think it was like 2018 or something was the last kind of ships.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting to see anything like for example the Crucibles on the Remnant. I'm not expecting to see that in Squadron 42.
No.
I always got the impression that Squadron 42 occurred before the in-game world.
Yes.
I'm now wondering if I got it back to front.
No, it's 10 years.
No.
Episode 1 is 10 years before.
That is what I assumed.
Yeah.
And by that, if that is how they're still going, then no, because it was only after the Battle of Vega, and then the next phase, sorry, when the UE went into Oberon after Vega, the unaligned system, where a Perseus that was still serving in the fleet destroyed 2 Vandal destroyers, and Admiral Bishop petitioned to have the Perseus reintroduced into production. So, no. So that's a law reason why it's not going to be in Squadron 42.
Yeah. There are, as far as I can tell, no technical blockers because we've got torpedoes, we've got ballistic cannons, we've got turrets. There's no technical blockers for it. While X spazzes out a little bit on screen.
Please stop spazzing out. It's making me feel sick.
But yes, I don't think there's an immediate rush for it either. There are other things that might want to take priority.
I'm going to bring out a music video. It's called Head Banging on Cleo.
Nice. Papa Boyington says, do you think cybernetic enhancements will be a different bed than the standard medical tier?
No, that's a really good example of a more advanced bed, because like as I was saying, as you go up, you know, like that, I don't know what level that's going to be, but I'm going to assume something like a limb is not as severe as an organ, right? So I'd assume that that's probably a tier 2 thing, you know. But your vital organs, I did learn that was in hospital. There is a very big difference. Like when they go into your middle section and like actually into your body, is way worse than say when they just go into a limb or something like that. I didn't understand any of that. But you know, when going through the hospital thing myself and actually going through, I learned a lot about how difficult the whole system is and how it's all overworked and blah blah blah. And you hear all those things as an outsider, but I'm just interested to see how it works in the game as well, because putting that in, like, just to take what I was saying about the overworked, you know, you might get somewhere like, let's take Louisville, where, you know, down in Maria of Heart, they're overworked to shit. But then up in that tower up the top where all the executives are, they have, you know, they're immediately seen, and there's a doctor for, you know, every 5 patients or whatever, and it's a way different ratio. So you could actually...
The executive wing of Maria of Heart is certainly...
You get what I'm trying to say, though, is you know, you go to Grimhex, the quality of service is not going to be the same as the quality of service on Crusader, and that's just the microcosm of the system we have at the moment. You extrapolate that out across the entire place. Like, if you hurt yourself in Pyro, I imagine it might be a lot more risky than if you hurt yourself in, say, Terror or Soul or something like that, because there's just, you know, the supply lines are thicker, so to speak, and they're easier.
So, if you've got a cybernetic limb, could you take it to the mechanics workshop and do modifications to it or repair it, or would you have to go to a med bed?
It's an internal thing, so I'd say that's a med bed.
I think it would be cool to see it grow up as an entirely separate medical discipline. See, you know, like you say, you can go to the execs, you can go to the scummies, and you can even do the whole... What was the Tom Cruise film where they could predict the future? Minority Report.
Yeah. Where
he gets his eyes... he has an eye, like, transplant from that really nasty guy, and he gets the rope to take him to the fridge, and he ends up drinking the off milk and, like, the mouldy sandwich instead of the stuff they'd actually left for him. Yeah. Like, you could go to some real backroom nasties like that, but maybe they could put weapons into your cybernetics, where that's been outlawed by most.
You could have a generic eye mod put in as an example, and you could put another mod in where that mod gives you night vision or X-ray vision or something like that. So you could literally take a negative and turn it into an advantage. And same thing with you know, cybernetic limbs, and they make you jump further, run faster. You could literally have a weapon built into your, you know, the things from Cyberpunk, the blades that come out. You could have a whole bunch of stuff like that where people are this is the thing we haven't even got into, deliberately cyberneticing them, you know. Getting that done. But is that somewhere CIG wants to go?
Don't know.
Can't answer that yet.
But yeah, it's a really nice thought.
Yeah.
So, and where they could go with all that sort of stuff. Okie. So, Retinabona asks, just curious, is anyone else having issues with being unable to log out of your ship, wait a while, and then try and fail to log in within the ship? I'd really like to be able to properly.
Not for a while.
Not for a while. It's been quite good for me. I did have a weird bug the other day I told Algared about, where I was at Bajani Point, and every time I went to, all my ships were spawning at Hangar 7, and every time I went to Hangar 7, the doors, like it would take me to Hangar 7, but the doors would never open. So in the end I had to claim a much bigger ship, spawn it to a different hangar, and then fly off to somewhere else, and then it was fine. And I even logged between servers and it was still doing it. So, yeah, that's the weirdest bug I've run into in a long time. So, yeah. But sorry that's happening to you.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Yep.
Alright. Okay. So, Cascadian asks, do you think we could see an anti-orbital Atlas variant, something carrying, say, a massive ground-to-orbit anti-capital ship torpedo? Like a Scud launcher, you mean?
We've talked about this a few times, but it seems that CIG doesn't want orbital bombardment as a thing. So whatever their plans are, it doesn't include orbital bombardment. I think that's got a lot to do with the shield stuff, because you would... there's just no counter to something like that, you see. It's too far away, and the only counter would be to have like these shields that you just can't break through, and so therefore it just becomes land-based anyway, so the orbital thing's a waste of time.
Part of it is also, part of that also comes into, they don't want people continually doing orbital bombardments of Louisville, Core, and and Microtech and Hurston, and Orison. They want their cities to actually function, not be constantly bombed into submission.
Yeah.
So.
Danny Nicholas asks, what would the future for smaller missions, like what happened to the pizza delivery that you didn't require a ship? Yeah, that'll all be a thing, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, they want us to be able to basically spawn on a planet with no ship and be able to earn our way up to having a ship.
Yeah.
Which goes into a little bit what we were saying earlier about having more real estate to play with within the major landing zones, because that would make sense. You're going to need it. But what you can see, if you have a wander around, I hate to say it because I know people get bad frames there, but if you have a wander around Orison, especially on Providence platform, there are areas that you can get to with like the life pods and the thrusters and all that sort of stuff. And at the moment, there's no reason for us to go there. But I understand that later on, they're going to be maintenance contracts and all that sort of stuff. So yes, it's coming. It's not there yet because everyone has ships.
If you don't have a ship or you're stranded, CIG have said you will be able to get jobs and work at. And they've talked about jobs on Orison, as Badges was just saying, the repair jobs, fixing an item, and even nine-tail type missions where you're sabotage. So lots of types of missions where you're fixing or sabotaging, stopping a sabotage, stopping a repair, all of those types of things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Zenstratus says... I've had one question up on Ask the Devs forum for over a year now, never got a dev response. So yeah, they don't seem to be engaging with the community nearly much as they used to.
Might not just be a question they want to answer. So yeah.
Or one they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Over on Twitch, Black Dream Hunk says, when will they finish early backer stuff and hangar apparel like the for example, the Omni combat armor?
Yeah.
Yes.
When it's needed, like that's almost everything.
Yeah.
So
and you could argue that the Omni combat armor is needed, but is it? But we don't know what the Omni combat armor is. In a sense, we just know its name. I think they may have talked about variants of it, but when it's needed, when they get around to it, they'll do it.
Yep.
Yep. So, last two questions then. We've closed the gate on that now. Fishy2951 says, do you think we'll see a laser version of the Perseus? No. The cannons are bespoke. It would be a shame to then dilute that.
Kind of defeats the whole purpose of, like, it's a much older ship in lore. And the real unique thing of that ship is it's kind of like the ability for it to change ammo types on the fly. That's why it's got those bespoke guns, and that is a real strength. The only thing that may affect that is the slowing down of the firing rate, but like it's such a special feature of that ship. You wouldn't it'd almost destroy it in a way, wouldn't it? You know, like you're taking your main benefit and flushing it down the toilet. So yeah.
Yeah, it would certainly relegate it.
Press the wrong button.
I guess you're doing it in your Merlin then.
Yeah.
Australians do it in their Merlins. Right. Daniel Parkinson says, for the last question, for Badgers, do you own a Perseus, given your love of the ship and X's dislike of the price tag?
He's almost got enough to buy one though, right? Didn't you work out you were like 40 quid off it?
We looked at store credit, and I looked at current values rather than what I'd actually bought them for, so I'm a little bit further away from that. But no is the answer. I love the ship. I think it's great. I don't mind waiting to earn it in game. So I might CC myself up to it, but I have eyes on other things before I get there.
So I was waiting to announce this, but I think I'll announce it here now. I'm going to be starting a Execute's Perseus fund just to piss off Badger's fund. Yeah.
Wow.
No,
yeah.
I'm joking.
And on that note, it's been lovely talking to you, Algared.
And Badgers is now also launching the Badgers fund just to... So
yeah. No, I'm very jealous of everyone that owns a Perseus.
So that's why we're going to buy one. Algared will buy you one too. Don't Actually, you've got one, don't you, Algared? You'd have one. No one knew.
Two.
I've got two. Yeah, see? Yeah.
Oh, you
so
monster.
now we're just going to pressure you to give one to Badgers.
No,
that's what it'll be.
But X is right for the money of that ship. There are other things you can't buy. You know, and for me personally, I mean, UK, like everyone, but living on my own at the minute, I'm feeling it specifically. Cost of living just means I will not be buying JPEG ships for a while. So sad but yeah.
Admittedly, my standalone Perseus was half the price because I used CCUs to get it. So
yeah, I think everyone's feeling that pinch at the moment. You know, I'm noticing here in Australia, a lot of my friends are saying that like it's just crazy. So you know, I think, how do I put this? The
cost of living is going up.
That's the simplest way to put it. And I know here in Australia, generally, realistically speaking, Australians have more disposable income than most other countries around the world. So if it's that bad here, I can't imagine how bad it is in the UK, in the States, and other countries and stuff like that. So I hope you guys all out there.
I saw a $6.50 lettuce the other day. The lettuce is being sold for $6.50.
So just for the non-Australian people, there was some floods here in Australia, and all the lettuces were like basically wiped out to the point that McDonald's Australia went out and brought every single lettuce that New Zealand had. KFC for the first time ever is putting cabbage in their burgers,
much to people's hate and horror.
Yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really weird situation here to not have something.
And to put that in context, like a lettuce in Australia, most I'd ever seen previously was like $1.99 type thing.
Yeah.
And it's now like, if you see them, it's like $6.50, $7.
It's really strange because people like really like their lettuce and they get really freaked out by it. But like, you know, you get like premium lettuces and stuff like that. There are restaurants using that and people hate it. And I'm like, but it's like, it's actually better for you. It's more nutritious. It actually tastes better to me. But
give me my iceberg lettuce.
What do I know? So yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, then I think we'll kind of wrap it up here. I'm only on the solo cam because Algared's is not working.
But mine died.
And if I go back to the other one, it just looks weird because
it looks weird.
Yep. Actually, no. I could probably do it. It's just, hey, your camera's working. What are you talking about?
Oh, it's back.
Yeah, I can see you. And now mine stopped working. Like if on cue. Like if on cue. So yeah.
That would be right.
Yeah. All right. Well, Badgers, you want to say goodbye?
Bye, guys.
Yep. And if you guys want to leave anything in the comments, please do so. Yeah, Algared, is there anything you want to hear in the comments?
Um,
You look really high up.
I'd like to see you like, subscribe, hit the bell. Yeah, tell us what you think about, about ships. I did put a question in our ship scrutiny question because they've been talking about ships they'd like to see. Unannounced ship. What would you like it to be?
Oh yeah,
If you could have it.
and that vehicle too, the unannounced.
Yeah. So,
vehicle.
what would you like the unannounced vehicle or ship to be?
That's a good idea.
Tell us in the comments. Don't forget, be respectful, be polite. We do read every comment. We don't always answer every comment, but we do read every comment. And for those who do support us on Patreon or YouTube membership, thank you very much. It is majorly appreciated. Those funds do not go to getting Execute a Perseus.
They should. No.
But they will most likely go to actually help get a camera of it, so he can actually join us on screen and go with his awesome beauty.
Yes.
And other equipment. So yeah.
The other thing I was going to say real quick too, I do have a show set up for this weekend with Moist Noodle, Space Tomato, and myself, but also Algared and I are looking at doing, well, it's not really a part 2, is it? It's like a continuation. We did that first one last weekend, but we want to do one on like the coming storm, like preparing yourself for
weathering the
what's
storm.
coming. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I'll also be doing the podcast with Paul and Jael on our expose of Star Citizen Law, and so that will be coming out this week as well. So lots of things happening in the world.
All right then. Well, with that then, the voice in the voice has been Badges, and thank you to SA for joining us earlier too. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute.
We'll catch you in the next one.
Take care.